It's a pirate's life for me. Just have to wait a little longer to start that life. Let's talk about it. Good morning, evening, or afternoon. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the XP Podcast, episode 27 for the first week of October 2022, also known as the single greatest month in the entire year. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Z, and joining me once again, Thor Kage on PlayStation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's DJ K. What's going on?
What's up?
How you been? What's life treating you like?
Good. I mean, we'll get into the wonderful pirate news and how it's affecting our fantasy league.
It's not affecting me at all, so.
Well, no. It feels like all the game delays have only been affecting me, but yeah, well, can't wait to get into that.
How's the kid again? It's the second week in a row you've been on here. You're becoming a regular, sir.
Hey, I'm here for it. She's doing good. Less middle of the day naps, so that's not as fun for me and mom, but overall fun. She's 2 months old tomorrow, the 3rd, so that's exciting.
It's crazy. I can't believe you have a kid, my man.
Yeah, there's sometimes me and her are like, hey, we have a kid, and it's just weird.
All right. Well, before we get going, I do want to stay humble here. Apologize to everyone who tried to listen to last week. We had a huge audio problem on DJ's side. We hope we got that fixed. We hope there's not too much skipping and the audio is much more clean and crisp so far. So far we think it is, but just want to say at the top of this, sorry about that. Hopefully it's fixed. Hopefully you enjoy this episode. Speaking of this episode, let's get right into it. As always, we start with a question of the week. DJ, as always, when you're on, it is your question to start with. So, sir, take it away.
So, kind of going through, I was having trouble thinking of one. And I just Googled quick video game what ifs, and those weren't giving me great ones. So I just came up with, is there a game that needs a prequel game? Like, trying to think. The main one I could think of is Pokemon, just because, I mean, we've kind of had a prequel with like the Legends of Arceus game. But I think so they're probably only keep their prequel, I guess, games to that. But for me, an awesome prequel game for Pokemon would be to show like the Great War that gets mentioned over and over again in the first 2 Gen games. Well, it's mainly mentioned in Gen 1 and somewhat mentioned in Silver and Gold for a little bit. So either that or the only other game I could think of maybe would be like a Portal type game. Because like in Portal 1, it kind of seems like there's people actually working for Aperture, but then in Portal 2, there definitely is nobody but the AIs that still exist running stuff. So it'd be interesting to see a game where like you meet Cave Johnson, or you are going through like the early testing of like the portal gun, and like actually see other people in the game. Other than that, I couldn't really think of another one.
Well, I got one. It's not really it needs this, but it's a game that Logan and I have talked about. I've talked about on the show a lot, and I just can't get out of my head. I want a Horizon prequel in the exact vein that I've talked about before, and that vein is in first-person shooter. It would be the return to the FPS genre for Guerrilla Games. That's where they got to start. Well, not to start, but that's where they came to prominence with the Killzone games and all that. Something in the same vein of that kind of gameplay style, but then set around the story of the fall of man. You know, during Operation Zero Dawn, and more importantly, you would be taking part in enduring victory. And like I've talked about before, like that story concept is very akin to something we see like in Halo Reach, where you as the player, you know how this all ends, you know how this all goes down, but the game forcing you, or you forcing yourself as a player, to play through this experience and play and get to know some of these characters that were just desperately trying to hold off the machines. I mean, I guess spoiler alert for Horizon Zero Dawn. Operation Enduring Victory doesn't go well. You don't win. Everybody dies. So I think just getting to experience that. I mean, it could be a normal first-person shooter campaign. 6-7 hours. I guess that's really not normal anymore, but I'd want something to be like 6-7 hours. And I just, ever since Logan and I had talked about that quite a few episodes ago, I can't get it out of my head. And it's just, I want that game so bad. I want to play
That would
that.
be dope, like, because they show much more on a much larger scale, like battles that took place in Forbidden West. So like to see some of that would be awesome. And then I mean, well, yeah, I suppose what they could do too is they could show a storyline of like have multiple storylines kind of running like they've done in a few of the Call of Duty games before, where you could show like from this aspect that, and then you have cutscenes of like them trying to do their other last stitch efforts to make sure like Zero Dawn goes off without a hitch, and then you could get like because obviously, well, spoiler alert, obviously the humans end up not winning, and Zero Dawn Protocol starts, um, and
Which was the whole
then you could
goal of
have
it, which is
yeah,
still like the coolest fucking story thing in Zero Dawn.
um,
I love that, dude.
and then you could do a cutscene of what you learn because obviously you would I don't know if like if people never picked up the games, if then they would play prequel Zero Dawn Forbidden West. I feel like you would still want to play them Zero Dawn Forbidden West prequel. Because then you could show the people trying to get away to um that other planet to go kind of settle, and you could show that working because like it's kind of a misnomer if it does or does, or you could at least show their attempt at trying to flee the planet with everyone in one last ditch effort too. So I mean, like I man, now you've got me hyped for one. Like
Dude, it's such a good idea. And
that
if
would be too, because
if
like
any of our 20 viewers happens to be working for Gorilla, please pitch this game to Sony. I want it to be made. Because like I was thinking, you mentioned like the Call of Duty like double storylines. Like I came up with two like immediately. Like they could go with a soldier on the front lines of enduring victory, and then they could do like the story of the pilots that you get from the black box collectibles, which
yeah,
is kind of a more like dour and sad note. But you could play through that, and you could play through them like waiting for help to come and wanting for help to come, and them slowly realizing like, hey, nothing's coming. There's no one out there, and it's like, man,
and then you could do a third storyline of Elizabeth like trying to save everything from her end, and but like oh man, and that would be a string of missions like you could literally call that like the black box missions, and people would be like, well, what the hell is this? But then like people who have played the other two games are gonna be like, oh, these are gonna be sad as fuck missions.
it's just like it's too good of an idea not to get made in some form or another. Please, someone out there, listen to me. I'm preaching here. Make this effing game so I can play it. And like I said, it not just does it have the chance to be a really good story and really kind of emotionally resonant with how it all ends, but again, it would be that return to the FPS genre for Guerrilla, and you can even spin that off and very easily make a multiplayer mode with that.
Oh
um
yeah, for sure.
yeah, I mean, it could even be a kind of interesting multiplayer mode where it's got a little bit of maybe that asymmetrical gameplay where you can do like a group of soldiers versus a machine, or in that could be one mode, or then you can just have your normal human on human multiplayer mode, which doesn't really make sense for the grand story, but I mean,
No,
Yeah,
but
but still, it should be
I
fun.
was not that I would want it, but I'm sure they could figure out a way to do some sort of battle royale mode too.
I don't know.
And
It
like
just makes two. Now there
it,
is news out there. Like we've heard rumors for years now that Gorilla is working on a multiplayer of something, whether that be in the Horizon universe or not. Because those of you that don't know out there, a little bit of background history. The original Horizon was supposed to have multiplayer co-op in it, but they just could never find the time to get it into the game and get it to work. And the second game, they kind of said they thought about it for a little bit, but it never really was in the grand scope of things. And I'm guessing that's where this kind of spin-off game that we've heard so much about come from is they kind of took a little bit of the Naughty Dog um aspect of it and it's like, well, we don't want to make it a mode anymore. Let's just make it a whole game. So we'll see if that ever comes to light. Let's hope. But yeah, that's been rumors
that
for years that they're working on
that
something like that.
definitely explains all the very well built like secondary characters to Aloy. Like that makes sense that it almost like they built it to try and attempt doing that game mode, multiplayer game mode more than once. Because like Zero Dawn only has two or three decent characters built up alongside her, but like um Forbidden West ends up with like five or six that would be kind of sick to have in a multiplayer. Now, obviously, some of them aren't from the start of the game. Only like two or three are from the real start of the game. Well, actually, from like the intro, and then you get another one here, one there, and but yeah, I'll have to start doing what I did with Skate 4, where I just would text like, or I would tweet once a month at EA like, "Hey, when are we gonna get Skate 4? When are we gonna like once a month?" Not saying that I'm the sole reason that Skate is being
Oh
made,
no, absolutely claim that shit,
but
man. You are the reason. Fucking say it loud and proud from the
um,
mountaintop. I
but
brought
hey,
Skate 4
I'll
back.
I'll tweet at Gorilla once a month. Hey, when are we gonna get a Killzone style Horizon game? Hey, when are we
Prequel,
gonna get
yeah.
a Horizon FPS game? I got no problem.
I mean, technically, we are getting a form of Horizon FPS in the new VR game,
Yeah,
Call of the Mountain, which I did a little bit more watching after last week's episode on some of the previews and all that. And man, this VR is going to be sick. I just hope it's not super expensive. I fear that it might be based off everything that's going on in the world, but I hope they find some way or another to lessen the financial burden on the consumers. But it's
yeah.
Sony, so probably not. But all right, any other games you thinking need a prequel? Because
No, because
one thing that kind of popped in my mind. Now it won't. I mean, they would have to kind of retcon some of the things that happened in the story. But I was kind of thinking of something like God of War, and like you could go back and play the Great War between the Greek gods and the Titans. Now, obviously, if you played God of War series, you know that eventually, like Kratos comes and takes them all to the future, yada yada yada. So they would have to kind of retcon some of that in a way. But that could be interesting. I don't know how they would do it or anything. It's just I was trying to think of like games that have interesting backgrounds and that we didn't really get to see too much throughout the main
yeah,
story. Damn.
I was gonna say Assassin's Creed 2 because well, not number two, just in general. But that kind of because that kind of gives you
I mean,
everything right off the bat.
we've gotten like
Like,
8 prequels to Assassin's Creed. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
and yeah, now you have like ancient Greece before it was really a thing, or Origins is like the origin of the assassins, and yeah, so you don't really need like a prequel. Um, and like even if you did a specific character like Altair, you don't really you kind of get his off the bat. Ezio is like literally before like the tutorial for that, the gameplay tutorial is like his prequel. So like you don't need one for him really, and like you kind of get they kind of give you one as like the opening to the game for every person. So it's like it's not like you can dive into and like honestly like Assassin's Creed 4 is a prequel to Assassin's Creed 3 like timeline wise because they literally go into one another and um Kenway is Connor's grandfather.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's like they gave themselves their own prequel, which like that was kind of cool and interesting, but it just like that's one that you can't really do. I mean, the Grand Theft Auto 5, I guess you could do like more of an East Coast one and give you Trevor, Mike, and the guy that I is it a spoiler? The game's going on 20 years old almost.
Okay, it's not 20, but damn, it's not even
uh
10
the
yet.
the third partner that they kill or that like he ends up dying, but Trevor doesn't know and Mike knows, and they like kind of
Oh,
yeah.
um, uh,
I forget his name.
I don't know. It doesn't
There's a
matter.
third guy in their crew that dies, and then Trevor doesn't. Trevor just thinks he's in jail, and or that him and Mike are in or that he's in jail and Mike died, and Mike like swindled his way out of going to jail because of that, and that guy died, and yeah, so like you could get a prequel for those characters, but like you can't really give a prequel for I don't even remember the guy's name in Grand Theft Auto 3. Um Grand Theft Auto 4, Nico comes to America like to start that game. So like you what are you gonna do? Grand Theft Auto Russia? Like real life Russia is Grand Theft Auto. So like who wants a game for that really? Um yeah, I don't really think there's too many other games that have set themselves up to have a prequel. They kind either they give themselves ones or they paint a good enough backstory to where like you don't feel the need for one. Um But man, now like I thought Pokemon and what was the other one I said? It doesn't even matter because I think a Horizon one
Horizon's the
along the
answer,
lines you're
right?
saying is the answer. Yeah, so
Yeah,
definitely.
I've been thinking about that for months, man. I can't get off of it. I can't get my head around anything other happen. That's why when we found out that the TV show was gonna take place, um, mainly in the Aloy timeline, but with flashbacks to the past and all that, actually before the war. Um, I was like, man, I just I wanna.
How do you feel about stuff with flashbacks? I not to it's kind of a bit of a off the path, but like I was just talking to my Warhammer Discord because we were talking about the Dahmer thing that's on Netflix and a couple other. Do you like stuff when it has flashback when shows or even games have flashbacks if they're not constant or they don't do them in a confusing way?
I do. Now, coming off of studying like English writing and my creative writing stuff and all that, it's kind of like a rule of thumb that flashbacks are like a no-go in fiction writing and all that. They always say that's kind of like your first sign that the author or the writer or whatever can't find a good way to get the history of this character or this world across in a cohesive way. Like
Mm,
he can't find a way to give you the information he needs to without going back and just telling you the information. It's the whole thing of a show don't tell, where you're supposed to be able to write something in a way that your audience, or whether it be a reader, a watcher, or a player, can garner the information in an acceptable format and understand everything that you as the author needs to tell them without having to just show them what happened. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a rule of thumb in writing. Like that's not the best practice to use flashbacks, especially not in like a prominent form, like where your story is pretty much focused on flashing back to the past and to the present. But me personally, I kind of like that kind of stuff, as long as it's like you said, it's not overdone. Like for example, The Last of Us Part Two has quite a few flashback sequences in it, and I think they're some of the most emotionally resonant parts of the game. Um, but I do know that it's not the best way to tell a story, but it seems like nobody cares because everybody uses flashbacks anymore. Which again, me personally, I don't mind them too much, but so I guess that's my Switzerland answer there.
yeah, that I like, and like I don't know if people have been kind of complaining too about House of Dragon. Like, um, I listen to Joe Rogan stuff here and there. Mostly the scientists or the comedians when they're on. Um, and like him and another comedian were talking about how they hated that halfway through season 1 of House of Dragon they just did a 10-year time skip and changed all the actors to basically make episode 6 like a second pilot. And like I don't mind it as much. I think it would have been nicer if they would have done season 1 with all these characters and have it take place like over 5-10 years, whatever. And I mean, the actress that played Rhaenyra was in her 20s, so I guess you could have. And I think the same with the one that played Allison. So it's like you could have just had them dress them so they look like children more, and then over the episodes have them dress older and older and older, and then like by the end of it they're acting what their age is or maybe a little bit older. But I also don't have a problem with the time skip because I don't know how many seasons we're gonna get a season of, or House of Dragon, or like I was talking to Lena about, like this has the potential to go right up to the Mad King, like, and it ends um with Ned and Robert Baratheon's uprising and killing the Mad King and all that. So like, you know,
Oh,
that's
well, there was something that I thought about, and I think this show ends with the birth of Dany. Daenerys
okay.
Targaryen. Yeah,
So,
I
so
personally think we build up to because the very first episode, that fade out text says
170 years
173
before her.
before
Yeah.
Dany Targaryen. Yeah, so I think this
So
show ends with her birth and then just cuts to black, and it's like because we know what happens after that. That would be
yeah,
sick. That'd be so cool.
which and I mean you could take. I mean that's
That's a
we so
long
far
time.
we went from 170 years time skip. Now we're still 160 years before that. Like there's a whole bunch that happens. So like they could do 3-4 seasons, unless they're gonna get real time skippy. But you could definitely hit multiple seasons of this, and then too, I really want the Jon Snow show to retcon the end of season 8. And I mean I don't think it will, but I mean when I saw that they announced that, like all I could think of is like what's it going to be about? Like him finding out the origin of the White Walkers? Like I don't, but that's another discussion for another time. So
I mean, yeah, for reference sake, Game of Thrones is rumored to take place over the course of anywhere between 6 to 8 years. I mean, and we've already surpassed that in this show alone in the first 5 episodes.
yeah.
And there's people out there that, like you said, that didn't like it. I absolutely loved episode 6 of House of Dragon. We'll talk about it, I guess, a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I
And
thought it was cool.
I thought it was fucking fantastic. I thought the new actors and actresses were great, especially the main two. I don't know who I hate more now, Alicent or the fucking Lannister lady. I don't remember her name now.
Lannister lady.
Yeah, the main Lannister chick. The lead of the show pretty much. In Game of Thrones.
Oh, Cersei.
Cersei, yeah. I don't know who I hate more.
Yeah.
Alicent or Cersei.
Yeah, it's
That or
definitely
fucking
like
Christian, the little bitch. Little cuck boy. Dude, I'm so mad at Christian. He's a cuck.
oh,
He is a beta ass cuck in this show.
yeah, definitely.
Ugh. All right. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Jon Snow show. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm like, just yeah. You got House of the Dragon. It's killing it so far, in my personal opinion. Let's just write it out. Let's not go. Let's not Disneyfy this shit. All right. Let's take our time. You know.
Yeah,
We'll get to Disney in a little bit, but
yeah.
all right. Any other games that need a prequel show, DJ?
No, I don't think so. Like
I'm sure there's some out there, but I
everything.
can't think of anything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, this is the XP Podcast, our weekly video game and pop culture news podcast, where Logan and myself, and this time DJ, sit down with y'all and talk about all the news stories and happenings inside and out of the video game world. We post a new episode each and every week, so you can listen to it whenever you want. You can find us on most of the popular podcasting services, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on the XP Podcast and the grander scale of the Experience Point, please support us on our Patreon, where you get to be a part of our weekly discussions and give us your opinions on everything we talk about and everything we don't. You'll also be able to find all of the uploads there as well, along with any exclusive episodes we may post. Links for that, as always, are in the description down below, or you can simply go to patreon.com and search Experience Point, spelled capital X, capital P, ERIENCEPOINT. However, if you don't have any money to send our way, don't worry. We still love and appreciate you for listening and being a part of what is hopefully a growing community. You can also go over to our YouTube channel, where you can get this show and all of our shows in video format. If you do, please don't forget to give us a like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you can be aware of everything we post when we decide to post it. New episodes and updates for you next week. I will be out of the proverbial office that we are in. It is my birthday weekend next week. So you may not get an episode of the XP Podcast next week, but you will finally get the Horizon Forbidden West review that DJ and I recorded what seems like an eon ago. That will finally go live, so all of you can listen to it and hear what we have to say about that brilliant video game. Coming up shortly, hopefully we'll get a chance to sit down and discuss the spoiler cast, where DJ and I go through all aspects of the Horizon Forbidden West story. So, however, stay with us, stay locked in. We'll come back to you in 2 weeks with episode 28, but that doesn't matter because we're here, episode 27. Let's get into it. Let's get into today's show. In the news this week, we're talking about Disney wanting 2 Star Wars games a year. Google Stadia has come and gone. Will we ever get to play Skull and Bones? Who knows? And so much more. But before we get to all that, as always, what is and forever will be, it's time for What You've Been Doing, where we catch up on all things pop culture that we've been doing, whether that be gaming, TV shows, books, comics, movies. It doesn't matter to us, because we like it all and love to talk about it. So, Mr. Thor Kage, what, sir, have you been doing?
A lot of stuff around the house, really. Like, what I do, I put up I only put up 2 shelves today, but I built like 4 or 5, some for my game room, some for the kitchen, just everything. I kind of shelves everywhere. What else did I do? I only game early played because I thought they were gonna do a battle royale teaser for Call of Duty, so I hopped online the other day and there wasn't one. So I just did some more work on Stray. I've got so many games I want to touch, but I'm afraid to get into a game right now just because literally now we're T minus 3 weeks from Call of Duty, and then literally it's like
Oh, yeah, we're
Call of
20.
Duty, Pokemon, God of War.
Yeah,
Like,
we're 19 days away from the pre-order release of the campaign. For me, we're 19 days away from either Gotham Knights or New Tales from the Borderlands, whichever one I decide to play. And then, yeah, we're 26 days away from Modern Warfare 2 proper.
I might, I'm not gonna lie, I might hop on and see if I can swing getting Gotham Knights also, just to go through that, because that is multiplayer, right?
Yeah, it's co-op, yeah.
Yeah, so I might see about getting that too, and seeing if I can talk the wife into letting me sneak up here to play some of that too.
Yeah, I'm
Other than
excited.
that,
I still don't know how it's going to be, but I'm excited for the chance. It'll be good.
yeah, and other than that, I mean, TV shows, I think we finished She-Hulk.
Yeah,
Um,
good God.
it honestly, it wasn't terrible. Like, it's just another. It seems like more and more these are just, they didn't have the full idea to wrap it into a movie, and they didn't want to spend the money on a full movie, So then they gave like the B squad like, here, go make a 6 episode or 8 episode or 10 episode show and have fun with it, because we want this character for this movie, or we want this character established for this movie. And like kind of like we've talked about over the past couple weeks, like for Miss Marvel, she was obviously established. Like they established her, they established Rambeau in WandaVision. Um, I mean, they were both on stage for the Marvels movie thing at D23 or at Comic Con, whatever one that was. So like we know they're gonna be in that, so they established them in shows. I think at the very least, She Hulk is gonna be in something either with Daredevil, or if they do, because we have Avenger movies on the docket, so whether she's gonna be in that or Secret Wars or something, down the line, um, that'll be interesting to see. Especially because I guess I'll throw a spoiler. They go into, I guess they kind of used it to answer the question that arose in Doctor Strange 2, which was, I thought Abomination was in jail, and then you see Juan fighting it. Or no, that's Shang-Chi. Yeah, Shang-Chi, you see him fighting. So it's like they kind of give a little backstory with Abomination, but like other than that, it was like yeah, he's not a bad guy anymore, and yeah, and it's like he figured out how to merge the two personalities too. Not that he really had to, but it was like, I don't know, that was kind of interesting. um I wouldn't mind seeing more She-Hulk. It wasn't like it wasn't like when Kenobi ended, where it's like, or Loki ended, and it was like, I need another 20 to 30 episodes of this. It was like, hey, if I get 5 episodes every once in a while, cool. If not, hey, I understand. But yeah, other than that, haven't been doing a whole lot. Um, I know Kid Cudi's Intergalactic came out on Netflix. I haven't watched that yet. So that'll be on the docket probably sometime this week. I don't know, because House of Dragon is tonight. Um, unless I end up watching it tomorrow, which that'll all depend on what the baby decides tonight. So yeah. Other than that, yeah, I haven't been doing a whole lot. Just the only game I really played is Stray. Um, and then those couple shows, and that's about it. What about
Well,
you?
we're kind of in the final lull here before the absolute clusterfuck of the next 4 months. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of nice just again have that time. We're close enough now that I'm not annoyed that nothing's coming out that I want to play. About a month ago, I was kind of annoyed in like trying to find things to play, and I felt like I was kind of forcing myself to play games, and I didn't like that. That's why I kind of took a break and for a couple weeks focused up on some TV shows and all that, at least until the beta dropped for Call of Duty, and then that kind of got me back and like, all right, this was new. Then I played Tales of the Borderlands last week to get caught up before the new one comes out. So yeah, it's kind of nice to we're close enough now that I'm like, all right, I'm good. I took a long enough break that I want to play games now. I want to get going. I took a couple week break. So I'm excited for the 21st and onward. Get to play a lot of games. I pretty much got most of my schedule down on what I'm going to be doing. We'll see what my family and girlfriend and all that get me for my birthday, if that changes anything. But right now we're going through kind of like a remodel slash reorganization of the house. We redid the dining room this weekend, cleared up a lot of space. It was fun. I'm gonna move some things around and change my game room here in the coming weeks. Get that all set up for when we get video on the podcast. Really have my setup looking real nice. But in terms of like what I've been doing, like I said, I polished off the last little bit of Tales from the Borderlands that I was working on last weekend, and with those two things connected, with the Call of Duty beta, with the Tales from the Borderlands game, I'm like, man, I'm really feeling like some first person shooters, and I really enjoyed that Borderlands style. So that led me to go out and buy, and I put about 12 hours in so far to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's it's super good so far. It's not amazing or anything. I mean, it really is just it's more Borderlands. It's what it is with a new coat of paint. And for me right now with what I'm doing, that's fine. I'm really enjoying it. It's I love the fantasy paint job that they did to it. The whole idea behind it being a Dungeons and Dragons board game called Bunkers and Badasses in this one. Um, you get to play with like different types of fantasy weapons. Like instead of pistols, they have like single-handed crossbows, and then some of the shotguns you can have like a crossbow shotgun, and um, some of the uh, yeah, some of the actual shotguns they have like elemental stuff to them, very kin. And then instead of some of your powers, you have spells. I'm a spell slinger. That's a class I'm playing with. So I have access to a bunch of different ice, fire, lightning, transmorph, necromancy. There's a lot of different things I can play with and have a good time. And it's the same that Borderlands gameplay that we all know and love. If you do love it out there, if you don't like it, then it's not going to change your mind. But it's a highly customizable experience with a lot of different builds. Not super big build diversity per se, but there's different classes, and those classes all pretty much play the same for each person that chooses it. But there's quite a few different ways you can go to play the game. Like there's pretty big leaps in between how the classes play and some of those secondary abilities and everything. But yeah, I'm having a great time with it so far. It's nice to just kind of sit down for an hour or two a night here and there and just shoot some shit and blow some stuff up. The story so far is like kind of whatever. It's definitely not akin to like a Borderlands 2 or anything style of story. But it's fun. It's entertaining. I chuckle at some of the stuff. They make fun of some gaming stuff. They make fun of some real world stuff here and there. But yeah, so far it's really enjoyable. Um, I know you said you were interested in playing it. I don't know if you ever got it or anything like that, or if you wanted to kind of co-op things. That's available. But kind of last minute, I like I decided to get it. I think Monday night, and I bought it Tuesday and started playing it. And it was like kind of like a spur of the moment decision where I was like, I just want to do this. So that's what I did. Um, just before we sat down to record, I had a buddy spend the night last night. Well, that sounded weird. Him and his other friend used us kind of like as a hotel in our place. They were on the way up from Florida because they just got hit by Ian, so they're kind of moving back to Missouri and trying to kind of reset and all that. I felt really bad for him. So gave him a place to stay, gave him some place to hang out. We took all the dogs for a walk today. It's a pretty big, it's a huge park where I live. It's like a 22-acre dog park where I live. So
Yeah,
went
I
out.
misread that when you texted me. I thought you said they were going to Florida. I was like, that's a weird time to start your vacation when a lot of shit's messed up down
No,
there. But
okay.
then I
So
reread it. I was like, oh, okay. They're coming from. Got it.
what I thought, no, you didn't read it wrong. I mistexted because what I thought was happening
Oh,
is they went up to Missouri for the hurricane, and then they were on their way back to Florida to like clean up and pick up the stuff. No, they
mm,
stayed in Florida. They just went inland when the hurricane hit, and then they kind of realized like everything is destroyed because they actually lived in Fort Myers, which was almost like ground zero for when it actually
yeah.
hit. So they don't really have anything left, which sucks. But so yeah, no, they were coming up from Florida, going back to Missouri to kind of resettle down and refigure things out. So yeah, I had that wrong. That wasn't you, but yeah. So I gave them a place to stay, gave them a free hotel, fed them. That was nice. So, but yeah, that was good. Got to hang out with some friends from college, but now I'm back to the old work grind. So, all right. Anything else you're playing? Oh, I read some more of the Poetic Edda. Ran into a really impactful line in one of the stories. I forgot what the story was, but the line said the difference between a a wise man and a fool is a wise man will change his mind and a fool won't. I'm like, damn,
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
deep.
When I hit that, is that, I feel like that's Ode to Mimir or vice versa. Or it's, I forget who it all involves, but like that is just, that's one of those like glimpses of knowledge. It's like, man, like people were really thinking, like, because I'm pretty sure the first form of the Poetic Edda comes from, like, I want to say around the year 400 or something like that. Like the first stories. So it's like it's just crazy to think that, now we're 1600 years and change away from, like, the first ramblings of some of these stories and poems, and like people were saying some deep shit then. And like, because like a lot of times you look back and it's like they had boats that really couldn't sail across the sea that well. They, some candles and fire, like they're years away from technology, at least from what I won't go conspiracy nut, but like from what we know of, like for sure history, like they're literally, yeah, they have swords, but and spears and axes and shields, but like is very barbaric, especially like it's barbaric how they lived to us now, like 50 years ago. So 1600 years ago is like, geez, like that's, I mean, yeah, there's people that purposely go and live off the land and live in the woods and keep to themselves now, but like that was a whole different level back then. And just for people to lay down deep stuff like that, that just is like, whew. And I'm sure when you read that, you did that bring about more chills from Kratos's "Death can have me when it earns me" line, like just to know that like it really resonates with stuff that they actually kind of had and were saying to each other back then.
Yeah, it's kind of like that line in particular is very resonant for the modern era that we find ourselves in. Um, but I've been doing a lot of, not a lot, I guess. I've been doing a decent amount of reading on like critical thought theory in the modern world, and so that kind of stuff made me like sit back and like think about like, man, these guys were thinking of this all the way back then. And by the way, I looked it up when you were talking. So it's like obviously it's a collection of poems, but they were composed over estimated period of 800 to the middle to later part of the
Okay,
13th
it is
century. So
yeah, I thought 400 might have been a little too far
yeah,
back.
so 800 to about 1220, 1240, the mid part of the 13th century is when all the stories were kind of written and then put into manuscript and published. It's crazy to think that we were publishing things in the 13th century.
Well,
It's wild.
and that people, like, copies of stuff were literally a person's job was to look at the original handwritten copy and then re-handwrite copies of it. Like, that was just someone's job until the printing press. And then when the printing press came out, people were still like, yeah, that's it's kind of like when they started making robots for assembly lines, they're like, yeah, that's gonna put a lot of people out of the job. Like, and it, like us looking back at that is like those people are stupid. But I mean, I'm sure, 1,000 years from now, if the human race is still around, people are gonna look back and like, why didn't they just have robots do everything? It makes stuff way easier.
Or maybe 1,000 years down the line, humans still exist, but we've been taken over by the AI robots. And like, why did they have robots do anything? Who knows?
Yeah,
Who the hell
yeah,
knows?
yeah.
We won't be around to know. So, or maybe we burn the planet out in the next 50 years and we all are dead. Fuck it. We'll figure it out then. So it's an experiment, right?
So
All
coming in episode 1,000.
right. Oh my god. Can you imagine if we're still doing this? We just a bunch of old fucks talking about PlayStation 360. Hey,
Yeah,
that would match up with Xbox then. We'll finally get around the coming around to Xbox's naming scheme.
our great 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 grandkids.
Listening to us on our
You were playing.
podcast.
You started on 8-bit. We're at 3000 HD.
I don't even know what the hell we're at right now. Because we're already
Well,
technically
because
at 4 times. Well, technically now we're at 8 times of HD. So,
yeah,
man, shit's crazy.
well,
Technology is
eight
fast, isn't it?
10 they're like 1080 is kind of like starting to get low res now, isn't it?
I mean, I think 1080 is still pretty crisp on smaller size displays. Like
It's still the
my second monitor that I have that I keep most of the the operational stuff for the podcast. It's just a 1080p monitor, and it
mm,
looks fine. It doesn't look as good as my 1440, but yeah, I think 720 is like the no go anymore. Like
yeah, I
you're
know
working
what
on archaic technology at
yeah.
720. I mean, there's
I
still
know
games
like
like Counter Strike and all that for the pro players that run at like high refresh rates that run
and they
1080p.
love it. It's
Yeah,
like whew,
1080p, 360 frames a second, man.
that's like looking at TVs because we needed one for the living room because I have our newer-ish smart TV up here. Like I think that one is 4K because 4K is like now the kind of the standard across the board. So it's like we get that. We looked at an 8K, we're kind of meh. We looked at the OLED and QLED, and it's almost like the people are standing in the TV acting stuff out for you, and Lena's like, "Yeah, it really messes, like, with her uncanny valley." So she's like, "Yeah, I can't." And, like, all I could think of is, like, we sent that screen setup where, like, the guy has, like, 3 70-inch curved monitors that are QLED playing games, and it's like, "Yeah, that's the setup we need." It's like, I don't know if the human mind's ready to comprehend something like that. Like, I always joke with her about having the trackpad to keep you in place and the harness and stuff to play VR, and, like, I can't wait for, like, first person shooters to get to that kind of Ready Player One level of gameplay, but at the same time, like, I've gone into those, there's a Star Wars game that some arcades have that kinda surround you, um and like you're controlling the fighter or whatever, and that was just I get nauseous bad, and it was like, yeah, I don't know if I can handle that, but uh it's definitely one of those things that moving forward, like it's gonna be crazy to see, like, and like us, like it's gonna be, I keep joking with Lena that I mean our kid is 2 months old, and like by the time she gets old enough to realize stuff, like 4K is already kind of like gonna be not archaic, but it's gonna be old already. So like she's gonna see like me have, because I keep coming home with 360s from my parents' house. One of them I'm gonna keep and or fix up to play older games on. That or I'll just bite the bullet and buy a Microsoft thing. Um Logan, don't listen to that. um but it's like looking back on it, like we talked about a couple episodes ago when I was on, like the first game you played, like I started with Nintendo, Super Nintendo, but I also played video like computer games with like that were one game was on 6 or 7 floppy disks, and they're like the big like 6-inch floppy disk. I played on one called Intellivision, which was like a keypad and craziness, like, and like some people today are like, why do people still play games on that? And I mean, obviously the games aren't fun, because they're very basic, and it's, 4 or 5 pixels is your character, whereas now like then you move into Mario and he's 8 pixels. Well, he's more than 8, but he's 8-bit. Then you get 16, 32, and so on and so forth. But it's like now it even like when they did all those remasters, like they did the one for Mario being 40 years old, and they didn't full on remaster like Mario 64, but they took it from 64-bit to like they bumped it a bit so it's not so blocky looking, but it's just like take the original Tomb Raider and put her aside the current Tomb Raider. Like it's it's not even night and day. It's like universes apart, and just it's like when we are doing episode 1,000, like it's gonna be crazy to look back and be like, hey, remember how like like we're gonna look back and think, man, our games looked shitty then, and it's gonna be like the nostalgia of when we hop on and play like GoldenEye 64, like I did it on the 64 that I have now, and it is not what you remember it being. Like, the nostalgia value is it's not as good when you click back on it, but yeah,
Well,
it's
the nostalgia value is still there, and that's what keeps us
yeah.
loving some of those old games. It's the looking at it through a lens of modern times. Like I remember kind of not arguing with people, but in class when I was doing some of my film study stuff, like we watched some of them older movies, in particular, Citizen Kane, which is probably one of the most influential movies ever made. And people are like, "Oh, it's not that good." I'm like, "It's not that good through a modern lens, but when you think about the fact that what they did in terms of camera movements and editing and how a film was actually put together, that was the first time you had ever seen anything akin to what a modern film looks like today in terms of the camera moving and panning and not just being a static image and the way that shots were cut together and formulated and the film was brought together as a whole. Um, not that's not even including that like the music and things like that. Like it Citizen Kane dawned the modern era of filming that we are still enjoying to this day. In every retrograde, what that film did is still being used in 2022 to make the MCU movies, the different styles and everything like that. So it's just a matter of if you look through something old through a modern lens and don't consider what it was when it came out, I think you're doing a little bit of disservice to how impactful or how important something can be for the grander scale of a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's actually get into the show. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. Let's actually get down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was what you've been doing and all the introduction things. Please let us know down below what you guys have been doing, what you guys have been playing, what have you been enjoying. As always, well, do you like the House of the Dragon? Do you like? Oh, I didn't even ask you if you had watched Rings of Power. Sidetracked here. Have you got
No,
to it yet?
still have not. I'm thinking I don't know if that's one she's gonna wanna watch with me or not. She
It's almost done.
might.
So it's only 8 episodes. So
Yeah,
7
that might be
premieres
one
tonight.
we go back. I don't know if we're gonna
Not tonight,
wait
sorry.
because I think House of Dragon is gonna be 10 episodes.
Yep, they confirmed the first
So
season's 10.
we might finish that and then go back and watch that. And then I know after House of Dragon's done with this first season, she wants to go back through Game of Thrones, which of course I'm down for that. So it'll probably be after House of Dragon, but before we restart Game of Thrones, that or I'm sure one night we're because She Hulk is done. We might sit and we might kind of alternate, especially on another lazy day if we have one coming up. We might just sit and go through a bunch of it or go through a good chunk of it and just see. I've been trying to ignore some of the degrading notes and stuff and ratings that people are giving just because I've been hearing a lot of there's some woke stuff in it and this and that, but it's like it's people are going to complain about something with everything. Like I always like kind of ignore a lot of the negative stuff and just I like to go and form my own opinion. Um like I got a high school buddy that like he'll comb he won't go to stuff opening night usually. He'll wait he'll wait either through the weekend and or that whole week and then he'll hit up like Rotten Tomatoes and see, oh, it got this, yeah, I'll go see it, or it did crap, like I'm not gonna go see it. And it's like, dude, go form your own opinion. Like if you go back and look at some of our favorite movies ever, or like some of our favorite movie like kid movies, like um they're rated as trash, but like to us, to you, they might be like the greatest movie of all time. Like it just like I can't stand when people don't want to form their own opinion first. They just kind of want to feed into what everybody is saying and then choose their lane from there. And it's I don't think that's a good way to live. Like it and that goes in every aspect, like politics, uh philosophy, religion, like all that stuff. Like don't just listen to one thing. Like you gotta have a few sips from everybody's drink and see and then pick what drink you want to have. Like not just, well, everybody over here likes Coke and people over here like Pepsi, but not as many, so I'm gonna drink Coke. Like maybe maybe you find out that Pepsi is the greatest thing ever to you, but you're never gonna know because you don't want to you don't want to choose your own opinion. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's the argument that I always have with people. It's a separation of subjective and objective opinions. Subjective opinions are just based on your own likes and dislikes. Objective opinions are based on some semblance of critical thought and critical analysis. And I always love to separate those two. My best example is a movie that I showed you guys way back when in college, Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch. My subjective opinion of that movie is I freaking love it. I think the vibe is cool, the tone is cool, the visuals are really cool. My objective opinion about that is it is complete garbage of a movie, and I'll never tell anyone it's a good movie, but I love it. So it's
oh
like,
yeah, and Lita's the same way. Like that's one of her like top 5 movies, I think, and she'll even admit the story is kind of confusing and doesn't really make sense, but visually it's an awesome movie. And I was like, "Oh, there's," I was like, that's a lot of movies." Like, uh, what's a big one that gets shit on a lot? Oh, Lucy. Some of Lucy gets shit on hard with ScarJo. Like a lot of that movie gets shit on that it makes no sense. That wouldn't happen. Da 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 da. But like visually, it's a stunning movie, and it's I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's like I I'm along your line of thinking where I can separate the two and I can say something is good. Now, like especially like with Sucker Punch or even with Lucy or some of these other like movies that come out in recent years, like overall, I'll say the movie is good, but like either the visuals lacked in this area or the story was kind of garbage in this area. Even like with Thor. Thor Love and Thunder was visually quite stunning and very in very many ways, but the story was kind of incohesive and I don't want to say retcon stuff from previous movies, but it uh it tried to be a little too funny at some points and force comedy and like the overall story could have been done a little bit better, but it was still overall a decent movie. It's not like and even with the MCU movie we all kind of hate the most right now, which is got to be Doctor Strange 2, um it it was very visually stunning, but the story made like I I think it's to the point now where they don't even call it Doctor Strange 2. It's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness because like and I've noticed they've done that a lot more with these with the Marvel movies. Like you have Iron Man 1, 2, 3. They're a cohesive one like arc, arc ends and dips right into next arc, and it's does a very cohesive bounce from arc to arc to arc. And it's really a lot of phase 1 and into phase 2 did a good job of that, but then it was like after they hit, I would say I'm trying to think
I
of
mean,
what
honestly, I think
it's
it's once we hit phase four. Like, because if you look back, like even
yeah,
like Captain America movies, like Captain America: Civil War, which is by all means a Avengers movie, you know, in
yeah,
terms of scale and all that, it's still a Captain America sequel. Like the
mhm,
entire movie is based around what happens in Winter Soldier and the fallout from that. Like it's still a Captain America sequel, even though it deals with the larger Avengers as a whole. And we just it doesn't feel like we get that anymore. It feels like
yeah,
it feels like a movie is either focused on furthering an individual character's perspective and being a sequel, or it focuses too much on just building whatever it is they're trying to build with this saga. Or you have movies like Doctor Strange,
yeah,
which don't do either very well.
yeah,
uh,
all this did was like it did a lot what like Loki and even Ant-Man 2 had already kind of done, which was, hey, guess what? you're not the only universe, there's a bunch of them, and they all interact and loop in and out of each other, and all Doctor Strange did was show that a couple of characters can and have figured out how to basically stream their consciences from one universe to the other and back and forth, and it just was done very sloppily, and I feel like it didn't need to be done because all it really did, especially at the end, was it was almost like it tried to show more character growth from Doctor Strange, but then by the end of it, like um I guess spoiler, he sprouts his own third eye, and it's like, okay, did you learn everything? Did you learn anything? Or did you take one step forward and two steps back and now you're gonna be cocky Doctor Strange, like neurosurgeon Doctor Strange. Um, but I mean, we'll see as I guess we're kind of leaving phase four and going into phase five. Like I feel like phase four is very, you see a bunch of stuff, and then phase five is gonna tug on one string and pull them all together, and it's just gonna be how well does it do that. Um,
I mean, Phase 4 was very akin to throwing wet noodles at the wall and seeing which ones stick.
yeah, and it's I feel like it's gonna be okay. What characters got the most pull with this audience or that audience or this audience? Because I feel like they know like character XYZ is gonna pull people to the movie yet. So now it's what minor characters can we throw in stuff to pull even further? And it just, I saw a funny thing that was Brie Larson on the red carpet for, I don't know what movie it was for, but somebody asked her about like how long does she think she can do Captain Marvel for, and she was like, it was kind of sad just because of how bullied she got, because I thought she did okay. Like, you can only do so much with what you're given, like as we've seen in Star Wars and in anything really. Like, you can only do so much with what you're given for lines, and I feel like she got a lot of unnecessary hate. And like she is even to the point where she's like, I don't know, she's like, do people even want me to be Captain Marvel? Like, very blunt, like pissy about it. Like, she like, and I don't blame her. Like, if anytime I went online or like got notifications like, hey, I've been mentioned in something, and it was just me being shit on for one movie or one or two appearances as a character, like I would find it hard to want to be that character anymore either. So I mean, I guess, like I said, moving forward, we'll see what Disney can actually pull off. Because I guess I'll jump into it quick. Um, Blade got pushed back probably at least a year into 2024, if not 2025, because Marshala Ali, who's playing Blade, um, said it was almost like none of the producers or anyone had like read the script yet, and it was like a 90-page script, and there were two kind of half-ass action sequences, and Blade is like uh uh shoot first, ask questions later type character, and they wrote this movie as, I'm going to ask if you're a vampire and then I'm going to kill you, instead of, you look like you're a vampire, I'm going to kill you, and then, oh, you weren't, well, help me find out who the vampires are. And it's like, well, I mean, and even that, it's like, look at the Wesley Snipes ones and just do that, but obviously don't do a one for one remake of the OG Blade movie. That's all you have to do. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. And it's to that point that I think you've brought up a few times where um I don't know if it's Feige as the head of Marvel Studios is being spread too thin or what exactly it is, but they're trying to do way too much and expanding and expanding and expanding. And like, that's got to be rough for him, because it's not like with Disney where it's, one person is the CEO of Disney, but you've got this person as the head of like their live of their movies, and then below him is this person's in charge of their live action, this person's in charge of their animated, and then you got this person's in charge of Pixar, and from there, and like just a good tree. Whereas at Marvel, it seems like it's very Kevin Feige, and then from there it's directors, and that's it. Whereas at least with Star Wars, you have I think Kathleen Kennedy is still in charge. So you got her, but then you have kind of like in her side pocket, you still have George Lucas, and then underneath her, you have why can't I think of their names right now? Uh, uh, he did the Clone Wars TV shows. Favreau did Iron Man, and now he's doing Mandalorian, and he did Book of Boba Fett and a few other things. And I can't remember the other guy's name. Um, but like you've got those two basically in charge of the direction of the universe, and they're literally, hey, we're gonna do this with this with that, this with this, and they go, oh, okay, and then she just more or less worries about the movies it appears, and obviously you can tell the difference in that because the shows have been well, Boba Fett had some hits and misses, but the shows thus far have been off the charts good. And outside of Rogue One, maybe Force Awakens, and bits and pieces of 8 and 9, like the Star Wars movies have been very lackluster and just really shat out hoping for money, and just I think there's complaints all across the board on that one. I mean, they still raked in a bunch of money, but it seems like Disney, especially with, I guess I'll kind of segue right into the first story if you want. Um
Well,
Disney is
I
trying to do way too much with all of its properties
I haven't
all
even
at once.
I haven't even introduced the actual first story
Oh,
yet. We've just been kind of talking. I actually added something in the timestamp. So I just put a bunch of random talk. Fuck it.
oh,
Let's go ahead and get in. We can save our Disney chat for a little bit longer. We've been talking about a whole lot of nothing for a long time. So, ladies
yeah.
and gentlemen, let's actually move in to around the point proper, where we go around the video game world and give you the news that you need to know about. First story up to date is actually not really a story, it's a reaction. Earlier this week, HBO finally blessed us and dropped The Last of Us trailer, and we have both seen it. We are gonna tell you what we think about it, and what I think about it is I think it looks pretty fucking cool. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. Um, I think visually it's incredible looking. Um, the audio so far, the clicker audio that you see, the shot of the clicker that you see, the set design, um, what each actor is doing and how they're bringing the role to life, super interesting. I thought it was cool to see how they're combining the story of The Last of Us proper and The Last of Us Left Behind. So, like we were just talking about earlier, we'll definitely be getting some flashback sequences that are probably going to be the story of Left Behind as told in the DLC. And yeah, I don't have a whole lot of detailed discussion for you guys out there or for you, DJ. I just overall thought it looked really freaking good. What do you think?
And I'll come in as I don't remember if we said it on air or not, but like I haven't played Last of Us or part 1 or part 2. Um I'm like, okay, I've got to see this, and like I think I need to buy a couple of video games. Like it makes me want to play them to know, have more of a background going in, and it looks fantastic. Like I cannot wait to see. And it's like it's Pedro Pascal, who Mando, uh
Oberyn.
Oberyn. I thought that's what his name was. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Like he's he's been around acting wise, I think, for a hot minute, but he he obviously just came on big in Game of Thrones, now again in Star Wars and other stuff, and it's like at this point, it's like this guy I don't think can put out bad content. Like everything he's been in has kind of been fire. Like it's it's pretty exciting to see, and yeah, it's definitely one of those things that like I mean, they might not get I don't know how cheap it is for me to get these 2 games now, but, like, I'll definitely buy them here and there when I have the chance and have the time to sit down and play those. I'll definitely play them. Like, they look like they're gonna be intense. I've heard endlessly from you. It's fantastic story. It's a great story, great game. Like,
Well,
yeah.
if you don't care about playing the remake, the Last of Us Remastered is very cheap for you to get. It comes with PlayStation Plus.
Oh, yeah, then,
So
that might
does
be one.
so does Left Behind. Now, yeah, it won't be the remake and it won't be the new modern shiny version of it, but you can still get the exact story and what it is. And by all accounts, The Last of Us Remastered is still an amazing looking game to this day. Like, does it look as good as the remake? Absolutely not. But does it look bad in any retrospect? No, not at all. So
Okay.
there you go.
So yeah, I'll
It's,
definitely this makes me want to get it and want to play it. So I
it's
definitely will maybe with these couple of weeks I have before Call of Duty hits, maybe I'll jump into that and try to knock that out quick.
don't play it in front of your kid. I know she's only 2 months old, but I'm just saying it's a pretty brutal game.
No,
It's
usually my video game time comes when she's down for sleep for the night. So
so. All right. Well, I mean, that is we've seen stories like that happen time in and time again when these adaptations come out and they're good. People flock to the game. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit with Cyberpunk. That happened with The Witcher when it came out on Netflix. The game started selling like hotcakes again and brought a whole new audience into the world of The Witcher and the game of The Witcher. And most people believe that that's why Sony released the remake to have it out there. So when the show comes out early next year, still no date on this trailer, which annoyed me. Still just a year. So hopefully it comes out early next year or mid next year. When that comes out, the game is there for you to play, and presumably it'll be cheaper than $70 by that time. And it's a whole new audience that'll get to jump in and see the story in its original format. And like I think that's one of the power that we kind of forget sometimes on this show, and I forget about when you're doing these adaptations is it's not it's not just to adapt something that you've already made. It's to do it hopefully in a not really a loving way, but a truthful way and a good way to the source material, and then also for a marketing push to get people to go buy the game. That's what these companies want. They want you to buy their games. And like if anyone thinks Sony is making and paying for the Last of Us adaptation on HBO just because they want to tell that story again, no, it's because they think they can make a really big buck out of it, and I firmly believe that they will. This is going to help the sales of the original game. It's going to jump the player count. They're going to see more invested interest in this first game, and then people are going to want to know what happens next. And guess what? Last of Us Part 2 is right there for you to play. So that's all I got on that. Do you have anything
same.
else? Yeah, same. I've been telling you for years, man. I've told you time and time again, just play The Last of Us. You will not be disappointed with it. Like, there's nothing to be disappointed with, in my opinion, in those shows, especially since I know your type of game and I know that you like that type of stuff. You loved Uncharted. The Last of Us is Uncharted matured with a very sad and depressing story.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2 on Around the Point. Speaking of Disney being greedy and wanting to do a lot of things, we have gotten news slash word through rumor mill of the internet that Disney wants a new game every 6 months. This comes from multiple sources. The one I'm reading from here is Push Square. It says, not at all happy with releasing a new Star Wars movie or TV show every 10 minutes. Disney is reportedly looking to pump out a new Star Wars video game every 6 months. According to Inside Gamer, with sources saying the entertainment juggernaut wants one AAA title and one smaller project hitting store shelves every year in rotation. The article goes on to list all the Star Wars games currently in development, and it's safe to say that Disney's plans are already very much in motion. 8 games have been confirmed so far, including Amy Hagning's AAA adaptation, Quantic Dream, Star Wars Eclipse, the Knights of the Old Republic remake, we'll see if that ever comes out, Jedi's, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the Fallen Order sequel, and so on. The report also states that these announced games aren't the only Star Wars projects currently in development. Several more are already underway, and the content machine is well and truly trucking along. So let's dive into what we were currently kind of dancing around with the MCU as a whole, with the TV shows, with Disney as a whole, with Star Wars, movies, TV shows, games. And I read this and I kind of just got sad. Like, this is coming from a huge Star Wars fan and just someone who loves video games. And it's like, why can't this company? Let me focus up on Disney real quick. I understand out there that there's many other companies that do this kind of stuff. EA, Ubisoft. There's many other video game companies out there that drive their products into the ground. Why can't we just have one or two big games every couple years? Why? Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was incredible, and in my opinion, not everyone's opinion, but I loved it. And the fact that we've had to wait 3 to 4 years for the next one, I'm fine with. I'm fine with waiting for something if the quality is there, the quality is to speak to. Why do we need 3 TV shows a year, 4 movies a year, 2 games a year? You're driving this shit into the ground, and you're already starting to see it.
It's getting to the point.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's like you've kind of said, it's getting to the point where like you're already at with Marvel. People are gonna get there with Star Wars, where it's like, this superhero show just ended. 3 weeks later, another one starts. That one ends. 3 weeks later, another one starts. It's like, g- give us a break. Like, Jesus, like I get like, okay, like 3 Marvels a movie a year wasn't bad. You got,
Yeah, it was
you've got
great, dude.
it
You know,
spaced out. You kind of had one, not one per quarter, but decently spread out. And I like, for this, why couldn't you do one AAA game every 3 years, let's say, and then
one smaller
every
game in between that, you know?
yeah, and every year and a half in between the major ones, you get a small one that just kind of, you've probably beat the AAA game by then or gone through it, and any DLC they come out with it. Now you have this nice little small one-off. It's only going to be a couple hours or whatever it is. You got that, and by the time you get that, you go and play, because there's so much content right now that, like, it's almost getting to the point where, especially if they're going to do this with Marvel, with Star Wars, with all the stuff they own, plus other, like, they're trying to do a trading card game that's going to rival Magic and Pokemon, like
Well, that's just not happening. Like
I
that,
get
that's just not coming
yeah,
into
and
fruition.
I get you own a lot of properties and you want to make as most money as you can with them, but there's already 2 or 3 major tabletop card game things from Marvel and from Star Wars. Like, there isn't a need for you to do one with just Disney. Like, they need to take a step back. Like I kind of said, like, do a big game every, with a 3 year gap in between them. That way, there's a lawning, and there isn't, because sooner or later we're gonna hit a space where you're gonna hit a pocket where, okay, well, especially with, all the economics of everything, like, I I will always make sure I get the Pokemon game every year, or everyone that comes out, more or less. Like, I didn't get the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl or whatever the hell it was. I didn't care. Um, if anything, what I would do is, oh, excuse me. I would look for an emulator or go get a 3DS and play those on that, as opposed to having a remake of one. Other than, I haven't played it. I want to so bad. Soul Silver or Heart of Gold. I want to play that. Like, it's getting to the point where that's one of the things I want this PC for, is so I can emulate playing Soul Silver. Because at this point it's going to cost me like $500 to buy a 3DS and a copy of the game to play it. So it's like I might as well stick that $500 into parts and play an emulator of it. Um, but it's gonna get to the point where, hey, what lane of games do you play? Well, I only play first person shooters from this brand, Pokemon games, and I only play this genre because you're gonna get spread too thin to where like there's so many games like there's Lego games, there's there's FPS, there's survival, there's puzzle, like there's already so many genres, and each genre now is getting better and better and better games. It's gonna get to a point where like especially if you can be in a hard spot with money, like us having our kid when we did like not that we weren't like we're fine financially. It's just there's some stuff where it's like, all right, well, we gotta watch. Like, I can't go out and buy a couple $100 in Pokemon or video game parts or what or video games or console parts or anything like that. I can't just go out and grab that right now. So, like I've talked with you, it's like very I can get this game, and either this one or this one. And that's it for the year. And then rolling in next year, I'll look at getting this one or this one and this one. But it's just like and if people are on a budget, like they're not going to be able to get every Star Wars game that comes out like every 6 months. Now granted, these AAA games might be 60, 70. 70 seems to be the new norm, and these other ones might only be $30, $40 games, but still you know, it's over $100 a year on just 2 Star Wars games. Now, if you're a Madden player, you're probably getting that every year. There's another 70. Or if you're a 2K player, you're getting that every year. That's another 70 plus all the coin VC stuff and all that. You're a Call of Duty player. Not all of them are like our crew where we only get, we get like we got me and Worthy got Blackout or not Blackout. We got Black Ops 4. Um I got Warzone, he didn't. He got Cold War, I got Cold War. Neither one of us got Vanguard. Um, I don't it doesn't sound like, especially now that he found out that he doesn't have to pay for it, and Warzone is gonna be a separate download. He'll probably get, um he'll probably get, Warzone at least, but he won't he only likes buying the Treyarch titles. So he'll only do that. Like, he'll get Warzone, but, like, there's people that, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 came out, great, they played it, loved it. Cold War came out, they got it, okay. Vanguard came out, yeah, okay, wow, this was shitty. But then at that point, well, I'll just play Warzone. But it's like you're gonna hit a point where like a game every 6 months. I don't care if it's not a major title. Like that's
Yeah, I mean,
like
I don't
you're
want to
gonna
keep barking up the Sony tree or anything like that, but I mean, I think the way they handle their franchises, they do it very well. I mean, we get a Horizon game, a God of War game, a Spider-Man game every. Well, Spider-Man may not be the best example, but Miles Morales was a much smaller title. But we get those every 4 or so years, 4 or 5 years, in the major events, and we wait with anticipation and bated breath, and we talk about them online, and we can't wait to play them, and then it finally comes, and I still at 31, well, I'll be 31 in 6 days. I still get like that anticipation in my stomach, like the day before, or the day of. It's like, I can't wait to finally just sit down and play this after so many years. And if I'm just getting Star Wars game after Star Wars game, I don't care. It's like I'm like that with the MCU. Like, shows come out and it's like, whatever. I'll watch them maybe eventually. I don't even know if I will. I still go and see the movies because we still get, we only get 3 or 4 movies a year. And I still think that's the right thing. But you pepper that with, I don't know, yeah, another 3 or 4 TV shows. I'm like, man, I'm up to fucking 8 things to keep up with this each and every year. I'm like, I don't want to do this shit, man. I got other stuff I want to do.
yeah, and like not only you've got like you said the way Sony handles it, look at the way Rockstar handles it. Grand Theft Auto is going on. I think it's over 10 now, isn't it? or no, it's not
No,
quite
no,
10.
5 came out in 2013, so
Okay, so they're
it's getting
coming up
close.
on it'll be out 10 years before Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. But in that 10-year span, we also got Red Dead Redemption 2. Like they go roughly 5 years between everyone. They have two major properties right now. They have Red Dead and they have Grand Theft Auto. So they have gone into every 5 years we're going to put out one of those two titles. And I mean, obviously um I haven't played. I've tried both Red Deads. Just I had trouble getting into it. I don't know if it was because I had people hype me up too much or whatever the case was, but um it was a very open shut story for one, and from what I've gathered, kind of for two. Um but I mean, all the Grand Theft Auto games so far more or less have had an open shut story for their characters, but with these last two incarnations of both GTA 5, Red Dead 2, they have online mode, which breathes a whole new life into playing those games. So it's like you beat your campaign, your story mode, whatever you want to call it. And then you move into your online mode where it gives you a whole plethora of other things to accomplish and do and play. And, Grand Theft Auto, it's get all this money, collect all the cars, the guns, go on missions, heist, whatever, own businesses, own casinos, like basically it's kind of like having a second life on PC. And then you go to Red Dead, it's a lot of the same thing. Are you going to be an outlaw? I see people that play they were like bounty hunters. There's people that hunt people that pretend to be clansmen on online. I'm sure some of them are in real life too, but that's beside the point. Um like I think Disney is so money hungry with this sort of setup that they're gonna see either people I'm trying to think people either are going to these first couple like Jedi Survivor, we're all gonna play the shit out of it because we love Fallen Order. So and like you said, it's a couple years going on 3 or 4, I think, since that came out. So like
Came out
we're gonna be
20
excited for that.
came out in 2018 or 2019, so
Yeah.
yeah, maybe 3 or 4 years.
So, but it's like moving forward, we're also potentially gonna we're about to get the start of what could potentially be a Harry Potter series of games, which or I should not Harry Potter specific, but Harry Potter universe or Wizarding World, whatever. Like we're about to get a for sure first game in Hogwarts Legacy, but who knows? Maybe that spawns us getting a slew of Wizarding World games. Um, and it's gotten to the point now where some of these titles and stories are so good that the games that we used to fill our time with before have kind of the company like EA has gotten so full of itself that they literally shit the same Madden game into a box and slap a new player and that year onto it and give it to people. And then people bitch about it all year, bitch about it all year. Now the next Madden is about to come out. They blow smoke at you and say, "Oh yeah, we fixed this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do this." They shit in the same box, slap a new player, new year on it, give it to you, and people for the first couple weeks are, "Oh, it's not bad," and then a couple weeks in, it's like, "Oh, they didn't change anything from the last one," or they updated graphics and a few other things, and that's it. And it's just like, I guess like and I'm pretty sure Disney took away the rights from EA because of how they mishandled Battlefront 2 where they shut stuff down early and like the game had made a decent comeback for a game that a lot of people canceled their pre-orders on day 1 um and turned that around and then they just didn't care. They're just we got other games to worry about and it's like yeah, but it, it's like you took your focus off of this one game to move to other games, but when you play the other EA games, it's like, where did you shift that focus to? Because they didn't shift it to Madden. They didn't shift it to FIFA because FIFA 23 is the last FIFA. You're telling me you took everyone that was working on Star Wars or on Madden and they're all going to like NCAA? Like, what do you? I don't understand what's going on with that. And I have a sneaking suspicion that this is gonna blow up in Disney's face. I'll say I'll say 2016 or 2016, 2026, which is now this. Reading the article you shared for us, the Star Wars Eclipse is in a development nightmare and might not be ready till 2026. So, like, we've seen that, which is supposed to be a huge game. That's already kind of not gone to the wayside, but it's in one of the 7 levels of hell. Like, and then you've got Knights of the Old Republic, which we've been hearing remake for years, it seems like. And then now, I'm pretty sure one of the last 3 or 4 episodes I was on, it sounds almost like that's dead in the water. Like, I think you need to focus on either finding 2 or 3 studios that are going to make games you're proud to put out, or um, you know, 1 or 2 studios that you're comfortable with just giving them the reins and saying, "Hey, make a game like this, make a game like that, and go make us money." Instead, it seems like they're taking 4 or 5 studios and say, "Make a Star Wars game. Don't make it super shitty. Let us, sell 1 million copies at $70 a pop." Or make a non AAA game, make a small game that we can sell 2 million copies of for $40 a pop. Just instead of like it's very getting to the point where they're so big and so full of themselves that like they don't see themselves as doing anything wrong or doing a disservice to fans and
They just think
paying customers.
people will buy it for what it is, you know.
Yeah,
So, well said. Long-winded, but well said. All right. Let's go into the next one. All right, how about that?
sounds
Speaking.
good. I'll let you take the reins on this one. How about that?
No, that's good. I mean, this is a game that's that you have something to say, I'm sure, but I don't have too much more to say
Oh,
about what I've
yeah,
already said about
I'll
this. All right.
I'll keep it brief on this one because
Number 3 on Around the Point. Once again, Skull and Bones has been delayed. In a press release today, Ubisoft has given a new release date of March 9th, 2023, allowing Skull and Bones to sneak in just ahead of the end of its financial year. The publisher explained in the release that while game development is finished at this stage, the extra 4 months will be used to further polish and balance the experience following technical test and insider program feedback from prior closed test. If you don't know the history, listeners out there of Skull and Bones, get ready, strap in, because you're about to go on a roller coaster of a ride. Skull and Bones development has been a tumultuous ride, to say. It was first revealed back at E3 2017, appearing at the time to be a riff-off of the naval combat in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. At the time, it was set to come out in fall of 2018 and focused on the prior gen consoles, the PS4 and Xbox One. Its first delay was announced the following year, pushing Skull and Bones back to 2019 or 2020 window. When it didn't surface for some time after that, reports suggested it had been quietly rebooted, which have now since been confirmed. It was then delayed a second time to 2022 and then again to 2021. Amidst the turmoil going on over at Ubisoft in relations to their work culture and hostile environment, it was then later delayed to 2022-2023 window, then officially given a November 8th release date, which is what we had expected it up to this point. Now, for the 5th time in 5 years, it is pushed back to March 9th, 2023. And the only question I have for you, DJ, is in our 2023 Fantasy Critics League, will you be drafting Skull and Bones?
honestly, it'll depend on when and where I draft. If because we didn't, was it snake draft for this last one? I don't think it was.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah. So if I end up, because there's 4 of us, if I end up with, I think I had the first pick this last time. If I end up with the fourth pick or maybe the third pick, it might be my second round pick. Um, I mean, honestly, if I'm and any of the positions, it'll probably be my second or third pick. It really depends on because like obviously majorly, I feel like Hogwarts Legacy is gonna be the first one off the board just because um that was one we were all and not that we were all hoping for. Um, but I feel like that, Starfield, Redfall 2, and a couple other like there's a good handful they got bumped to this next year that it's like, whew, like those will go off the board first, I think. But this will be one that I feel like I'll end up taking, and then you or Logan for sure, maybe even Worthy will counterpick on me.
I was
But
gonna say,
I
can I be honest and blatant with you? I have absolutely no clue, and I am flabbergasted how you still have any faith in this, my man. I just
I
I don't see it.
it's
I just
it dwindles more and more.
I don't think it's
The couple
as sorry. I don't think it's as like garbage as Logan's talking about. I do think there could be something here, but I just don't see how it'll be anything other than average at best. Like I just don't
yeah,
see it.
it dwindles. I see I'm stuck in a weird gap because I feel like Ubisoft got very spooked by what happened with Cyberpunk and what happened with what the No Man's Land. And there's one or two
No
other
Man's
titles
Sky.
No Man's Sky, that's
Yeah.
right. Where it got hyped, it got hyped, it got hyped. The E3 people were stoked, they were hyped. It came out and it was dog shit. And I feel like the first trailer for this was like, oh, we're getting the pirate side of like the being out on a ship, not in an assassin side, more in depth version of Assassin's Creed 4. We're getting that like, oh, yes, let's do it. And then they went quiet. And then it was, hey, we're still working on this. It's going to be great. Okay, awesome. Then No Man's Sky came out after the same level of hype and was dog shit. And they were like, hey, we're bumping it back. We want to make sure everything's good. Da 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 da. Okay, yeah, whatever. And then here's our release date now. And then Cyberpunk 2077 came out. Same thing. Huge hype. Awesome. This is gonna make you want to stand in line for a new gen console that people still can't get. It came out, it fell flat. Now it's turned. We'll talk about later. It has turned around, but for a long, long time, Cyberpunk was a huge letdown. And then it was, hey, we're gonna go back to the drawing board on some stuff. We're not done yet. And at this point, it's like I think it was funny that the hook for the article was fifth time's a charm. Like it's getting to that point where it's like uh I might get it regardless, but this might be one of those games that it'll be like Battlefront 2. It's gonna sit out for a year or two. I'm gonna let it drop to like $30 or pick it up for that or cheaper on a Black Friday, and then I'll play it and see, or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's gonna live up to the hype and some, and it's gonna be awesome. But like you're saying, I when the last video came out and they made it sound like it was still gonna come out this year, my hype was still around. I'll give it high 50s. Like I'll give it a high 5 out of 10 for my hype yet. But now I'm at this point, I'm like between a 3 and a 4. Like I
Just
I don't know if I don't know if it's because it got pushed back or if it's because now we're hitting, like we said, we're hitting our sweet spot of God of War, Pokemon, um, COD, a handful of Callisto Protocol, which I saw another trailer. I might have to look at getting that too. Looks
dude,
amazing.
looks incredible. Jesus.
And
Just for information,
now we're
I want to throw some stats at you real quick, just for information
Yeah.
about how protracted this development cycle has been. Skull and Bones was announced before we ever played God of War, Spider-Man, or Red Dead Redemption 2. Those games came out in 2018. This game was announced a year before those games came out. And now we're seeing the sequels to those games. Well, not Red Dead Redemption 2, but we're seeing the sequels to God of War and Spider-Man this year and next. It's insane. Absolutely, absolutely. How can you fuck up a development this bad? Like, I understand the game was developed, obviously, when they showed off in 2017, it appeared to be very far along, and then they restarted all of that. I understand all that. I understand how we got here. But I just don't understand how you can honestly fuck up this bad. Like,
yeah, was there a changing of the guard and someone looked at, they looked at what projects have we stuck the most money into, and I feel like that's what happened is somebody looked at it and said, "This is dog shit, but we've stuck so much money and time into this and built up such a hype that now we have to make this." And this is one of those, it's gonna be kind of like when I took it in the thing, it was like, that didn't come out yet? When was that announced? Oh, it's going on 5 years already since it first was had a showcase, like, what the hell? And it's I feel like it's gonna be one of those, it comes out and it's gonna be like, wow, that finally came out, like, wow, okay. And then we're just gonna be like, well, yeah, that didn't live up to the hype. And I feel like it's gonna be one of those, we will be more surprised that it lives up to the hype than if it doesn't live up to the hype at this point. And it's kind of sad and shitty.
yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to think about this game anymore, man. Like, I never really thought it was going to be good per se, and in the past couple years, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's, I just don't think it's anything. I think it's one of the saddest stories of game development we've had in a long time, and one of the most baffling how, like, we talk shit on Ubisoft quite a bit here, but it's still to this day one of the most prominent video game developers on the planet, and it just for 3 to 4 years now, it just seems like they just can't make a game. They can't make a game run properly. They can't finish out a game. They can't make it work. And it's like, I just don't get it. Like, yeah, did Horizon Forbidden West have some hiccups when it came out? Yeah, there were some visual glitches. There was some oddities and all that. It still is tenfold the quality that we've seen out of Ubisoft in the past half decade. And it's like, I just don't understand. That's why, with the announcement of Assassin's Creed Red, or Codename Red, I'm like, yeah, great. Finally, you did it. That's cool. Is it going to be Ghost of Tsushima? I would be blown away if it's anything near that. And it's like, it's too late. It's too gone. Other companies stepped in and did it better than you probably ever could. Who knows? Maybe they come out and surprise me. I hope they do. I hope the game is fantastic. I hope everything that Ubisoft is attempting to do and writing the ship works out, but it just seems like they've been writing. You know what? I just thought, I'm going to liken them to like the New York Football Giants. It seems like they've been in a rebuild for half a decade. And every time they try, it just doesn't work. And I don't know how things are like that when the industry and the world around it is set up to not be like that. And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next story. A sad one per se, but not a wholly unexpected one in my eyes. In a surprise announcement earlier this week, Google has announced it will be officially shuttering Stadia and everything included with it. It goes as this. Google has announced it is winding down its Stadia video game streaming service and will shut it down on January 8th, 2023. In a news blog, the company revealed that Stadia hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected. No shit. And as a result, the company has made the difficult decision to begin winding down the service. Google will be refunding users who purchased either hardware or games from Google and Stadia. They say, we're grateful to the dedicated Stadia players that have been with us from the start. We will be refunding all Stadia hardware purchases made through the Google Store and all game and add-on content purchases made through the Stadia Store. Players will still be able to access their game library and play until the fateful day of January 18th, 2023. So Google Stadia has come and gone faster than you feels like you can blink an eye at. No, I guess fair enough. It was there for a while, but I mean, it was a dud on arrival. They failed to deliver on most of the promises that they set everything up to be, and it just I don't know, because I'm kind of of two minds here. And my two minds are, yeah, Google does this a lot. They come out with ideas and they never go anywhere with them. They're honestly famous for that. There's entire links and Reddit threads you can go on to say all of Google, what the fuck is a Google? All of Google's failed projects or abandoned projects. It's just another one in the book. So most people saw this coming. But then again, in my second viewpoint or my second stance, I see this kind of as the one who had to fall so that we could all run. And what I mean by that is like you see cloud streaming services succeeding in the the place and the industry that Google Stadia couldn't. I mean, Xbox Cloud Gaming, it works. PlayStation Now, for what it was, the streaming, it's not great. It's not as good as Xbox Cloud Gaming or GeForce Now or anything like that, but it does work. You can play it, and it is supported in a meaningful capacity. But I never saw how a streaming service could be dedicated as its own platform. Everything else that we're talking about is subsegments or add-ons to an existing console or an existing piece of hardware that allows you to play in a different manner. But the fact that you had to go out, buy this service, then buy the games from the service, and never own anything. I mean, hey, but good on them. They're refunding everything. Anyone who ever bought any game from them, you're gonna get your money back. So no harm, no foul, I guess. And the end of this all, that's good and frankly kind of unexpected from a major company like Google. They didn't have to do that. That's not something that they had to do. It's good that they did do it, and it's probably the right decision for them. But yeah, I mean, I think we all saw the writing on the book when this thing launched, and everyone was like, "What is this? This is half of what you told us it was going to be, and we don't even own anything." It's like Netflix. You don't own what you watch on Netflix. It's like, but if you had to go out and buy every single show that you watched, or rent every single movie that you watch, and then tomorrow Netflix was like, "Oh, we're closing down. Sorry, you lose everything that you spent into." That would suck, man. Right? That's the same thing we're talking about here.
Yeah,
So,
it's one of those for that argument. That's one of those things that I notice. People call it a physical media collection, like DVDs, Blu-rays, all that. It's one thing that really scares them is what happens when some of these streaming platforms just decide, this isn't making the money we thought it was. We're closing up shop. Like now you have to scramble to go find DVDs and stuff, and that's not easy to do. Like, um, the best example I can think of is Dogma by Kevin Smith. It's he doesn't make mainstream movies, but Dogma's a pretty good movie, and um, the Weinsteins own the streaming rights for it, or just they own the rights to the property in general for streaming, reproduction, all that. Um, and they want 5 mil, which it's nowhere near worth. Like, yeah, it's got a good cult following, people love it, but it's not worth 5 million. Kevin Smith, who wrote, directed, produced all that, he says it's not worth 5 million. It's just one of those like, um, me and Lena bought the DVD for like $30, and the last time the DVD came out was like the early or mid 2000s, I think. Um, and we bought it for 30. I looked again, the same link we got it from on Amazon. Now they want like almost 130, and it's like some of those it's kind of funny because I look for that kind of stuff when we go antiquing and out to thrift shops and stuff, and it's one of these. I feel like Google, they try to do something kind of unique and cool and along the lines of their cloud thing, but it just it, it feels like they try to fill a void that may or may not have been there, and then it just didn't work. Now, like you said, good on them for refunding everything. 'Cause, like, I feel like Apple wouldn't have refunded anything. Like,
oh,
all
absolutely,
Apple
absolutely not, dude. Fuck
like
Sony. I'm a people call me a Sony pony. Sony wouldn't have funded anything. Sony wouldn't have given you your money back. If Sony was to eventually close down, they'd be like, "Hey, sorry, you're shit out of luck." Like,
yeah, they would have just got a sorry. Like, look at what did Apple do? They put that YouTube album on everything that was Apple. They didn't ask for your permission. They just did it, and people were like, "What the fuck is this?" And like, there wasn't no, "Oh, sorry, we'll take it off there for you," or "Yeah, you can go ahead and take it off." All it was, sorry, we kind of overstepped our bounds," and that's all you got. It's like this shutting down. It almost seems like I don't know if it made any of the episodes. Because I haven't listened through all of them. That Facebook gaming shut down. They shut down their like game streaming thing. Um, which was kind of like I knew forever they pushed for it to be huge because Twitch was shadow banning and this and that people constantly. And then it was okay, are you going to YouTube? Are you going to I forget what the other one that Ninja did for a hot minute after
yeah,
they banned
it was one of those weird ones. I don't remember, but
yeah. But like they paid him a bunch of money to go there, and then it was like they shut down shortly after that. So then he went to I forget if he went back to Twitch or if he went to Facebook or YouTube, but it was like a bunch of bigger gamers or even smaller time gamers. They knew they weren't going to compete with, Tim the Tap Man or Nick Merckx or some of those like who's the big one that was on Facebook? I think Stone Mountain 64 or 69, whatever his name is. The guy that would like he was playing a lot of Battlefield and would act like it was real life to him.
yeah, I love that guy, and
He's hilarious.
he's legitimately, in my opinion, one of the better FPS players
Yeah.
out there. He's so good.
And it's like so Facebook was getting some cloud. They had guys like that. They had lesser known, like up and coming guys. But then it was just like they just kind of went, yeah, well, we're not beating Twitch, we're not beating YouTube gaming or streaming, whatever you want to call it. And they just went, you know what? We're gonna shut this down and we're gonna go focus on doing meta and the metaverse and all of our VR stuff. And we're just going to take a step back from this for a bit because it wasn't so much that they got in over their heads, but it just like this almost seems like Google bit off more than they could chew, and it just didn't work out how they thought it was going to work out.
Want to hear a funny connection story, and I think this is fucking hysterical. So the same guy that ran Google at the beginning was the head of Xbox during the Xbox One announcement time frame. And I'm like, well, you know what? Moving forward, maybe don't hire him to run your console or hardware production because I don't think he's very good at it, honestly.
The guy that came out and was like, "Hey, the Xbox One is going to help you watch TV and movies so good." And I will always harken back to that when we were all making that like you were like, "Well, I'm going PlayStation 4." And all of us were like, "Yeah, but we all have 360." And you were like, "Watch the presentation." And we watched them both and we're like, Xbox just talked at us for an hour about how the gaming console was going to help us watch TV and spend more time as a family. I'm not trying to buy it for that. Why are you trying to sell it to me
Yeah,
like that?
I'm trying to get away from my family. I don't want to be a part of
Yeah,
that shit.
like
Leave me alone.
it's like I don't know if they were trying to market that to like the guys that are our age now that might have a family that it's like, yeah, but you can, you can go from playing your game and then you can stop quick and you can throw on a movie or a show for your family to watch and then you can it's like most of us aren't trying to do that. Most of us are this is our hour or 2 hours to ourselves late at night to do what we used to do. Like that's still wild to me. And the fact that Google was like, you know, he didn't do great, but he did good enough. Let's hire him. And it just
Yeah,
eh.
Phil Harrison. He's worked at now Google, Microsoft, and Sony, and was all a part of the darkest times of those respective companies. He was a part of Sony doing PS3, Microsoft doing Xbox One, and then Google doing Stadia. I'm sorry, Phil Harrison. I don't know you personally. You may be a great guy out there, but you fucking suck at video games. I'm just saying, man.
Nintendo, your PSA to Nintendo, you were kind of struggling with stuff the way it is right now. Do not hire this man.
Yeah. In the same breath, I do want to say, while it's great that they are refunding all the money, and that's a huge move, it doesn't change the fact that they don't have access to the games anymore after January 18th. It doesn't matter if you have your money back, you can't play the games. And in that same breath, I do want to shout out some of the companies who have come out immediately and told the customers and told the people that they're going to try to support them the best they can. I have a couple examples here. Ubisoft, of all people, came out and said, while Stadia will shut down on January 18, 2023, we're happy to share that we're working to bring the games you own on Stadia to PC through Ubisoft Connect. We'll have more to share regarding specific details as well as the impact for Ubisoft Plus subscribers at a later date. Bungie, the developer behind Destiny, came out and said, hello, everyone. We just learned about Stadia shutting down and have begun conversations about next steps for our players. We will announce and send out information regarding Destiny 2 Stadia accounts once we have a plan of action. And finally, IO Interactive, the people, not just men, the people behind Hitman, has said, to all our Hitman fans on Google Stadia, we hear you, and we are looking into ways for you to continue your Hitman experience on other platforms. So shout out to these guys for coming right out and saying, hey, look, we're going to try to do everything we can to work on you. But one thing I wanted to point at was Bungie's statement that says, we just learned about Stadia shutting down. So from that statement alone, it appears that they didn't tell fucking anybody. They just came out 3 days ago and said, hey, we're done. We're closing everything down. Sorry, everybody. Here's your money back. We're going to walk off in the sunset. Like, huh?
Yeah, to not
that's shit,
not
man.
even say anything to like the people putting out the games that you're trying to have other people pay to play, like just to guys, we're shutting down. And then for some of the people making the games to be like, what? Like, this is news to us. Like, do we miss an email? Or like, we all have Gmail accounts. How come you're Google? How come you couldn't give this to us?
For a timeline update, the original story ran on September 29th at 11:20 on IGN. And Bungie's tweet was sent out on September 20. Wait, I said September 20th. I meant September 29th. Sorry. Bungie responded on September 29th at 1:51 p.m. So approximately 2 hours later. So they were like, oh shit, fuck, and trying to figure shit out real quick. And then Ubisoft and IO both came out the next day on September 30th. So shout out to those three publishers and developers for trying to figure it out. Shame on you, Google, for literally not telling anybody. Good on you for supporting the people. Not supporting the people, refunding everybody and giving the money back. But man, it sucks. It sucks for the people on Stadia. I'm not one of them. I never had any interest in it at all. Well, that's a lie. I had a passing interest in it until they announced that they delayed half of the functionality to like later date, and I was like, all right, well, never mind, I'm out. But yeah, it sucks. Sorry for those people, but this is my fear with moving into an all digital age. Like, anything can close down at any time. Now, do I think like Sony's gonna shut down just randomly, or Xbox is gonna go away, or Nintendo is gonna go away, or Steam's gonna stop being a thing? No, obviously, those things are here to stay. And if one of them was to close down, there'd be a massive shift in the video game industry as a whole. Like an earthquake would go through the industry. So I'm not too worried about that, but it still is a kind of a fear in the back of my head that, if one of these stores closed down, or like one of the old PlayStation hacks happen, I can't play my games. That's why I'm still kind of trying to support physical media, even though I know it's dead/dying. I understand that, but I don't want to give up yet because of things like this and because of the fear that exists out there that things can go away at any time, with unbeknownst to us and out of our control. All right, anything else, man?
Nope, that's about it for that one.
All right, our next story is a happy one per se. Story number, I don't know what number we're on. What the hell number are we on? Story number 6 on Around the Point. Cyberpunk, thanks, coming off the backs of Edge Runners on Netflix, has seen a massive boost to not only the player base, but also their sales for the first time in since launch. So they finally surpassed over 20 million sales and saw over 1 million players on Steam every day last week during the initial run of the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime and the announcement of Phantom Liberty, their first and only major DLC expansion to the game. So I don't have much to say on this other than this is what we were talking about earlier with the Last of Us thing is these adaptations, if done well, can have a massive impact on a game's player base, a game's sales, and a game's just reach and scope as a whole and in general. You know, so it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. We kind of already talked about it, so I don't want to beat a dead horse into the ground. I actually don't think that's a saying now that I think about it. I don't know what that saying is, but beat a drum, I think. Right? I don't know. Fuck it.
Beat a dead horse, beat the yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't want to go too much, but this is the world we live in. Video games are now the biggest entertainment property in the world. Bigger than movies, bigger than TV shows, bigger than books. It's everything. It's everywhere. Everybody of all types, shapes, sizes, color, hair color, feet size. I don't know. However you want to describe people nowadays. Everybody plays video games now, which is awesome. It's great. I love it. I love that's something that I have been passionate about for 20 plus years of my life is finally everywhere, and I can talk with video games to most people nowadays out there that I run into. That's great. But yeah, now as we move into that, they are going to reach down into the lower tiers of entertainment, and you're going to see your TV shows, your movies based off these things. It's kind of like an exact like it's turn on the head of what we used to see with like movie tie-in games to like the MCU games or other things. Now we're seeing TV show tie-in games to major game to these games. You know, it's kind of like the industry has kind of flipped itself on a whole, and the entertainment industry has flipped itself on a whole, and recognized that these games are some of the biggest multimedia properties in the world. I mean, fuck, look at GTA. I think that thing's up to like 170 million copies sold of GTA 5, which is an astronomical ass number.
Yeah.
But yeah, these things are the biggest properties out there right now, and you see these companies, Netflix, Amazon, Peacock to an extent, and some of these other, HBO, obviously with The Last of Us. Some of these people are like, all right, let's get in on it, man. Let's pair with these companies. Let's create something special. Not only have an already existing fan base and the people that played the games, but also people who may not have played the games that watch TV, that watch Netflix, that watch this, and they're like, oh shit, now let's go play the games. It's kind of like the circle of life, and it is kind of cool to see that 10, 15 years ago, it used to be games getting these tie-in games. The industry getting, Captain America, and I forgot what the subtitle of that tie-in game was. And now we're getting, TV shows and movies based off games. It's kind of cool, honestly. I kind of like it. I dig it. I'm into it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely like we've talked about the past couple of shows now that have come out, that it's like, hey, it's almost like some of these gaming companies realized we don't just have E3 or Comic Cons or video game cons or any of those type of things, and some of that, like, especially if a game, it seems, especially for either a game that might have been ahead of its time, or like with Cyberpunk was very lackluster. Now you give it a show, give it, something like that, and whether it's a show, a comic, a movie, what have you, and it breathes new life into it, and it's like now people are like, "Oh, this is based off a game. Let me go check out the game." Now, some people might still hate the game. It doesn't live up to the hype of the show, but like it ties into the game. So now they're going in knowing like this little bit of it, and it's like, "Oh, hey, that's pretty dope." Like I feel like it's now they've realized it's a way to drive people to play in their game now, instead of a game driving people to see a movie or a TV show. Like you said, it's a total flip, and honestly, it to me, it's kind of like, how did you guys not think of this sooner? Like,
I'm just sitting over here
but
smiling, and in my head, I'm like, yeah, see, fuck you, Dad. I told you this was gonna be big. I told you I was never gonna stop playing video games. Dad, if you're listening listen to this, I love you, man. Props. But fuck you, man. I told you this was gonna be a big thing. Hey, he's actually excited about The Last of Us. He watched the trailer and he called me about it actually, and he was like, "Hey, did you see this thing coming out on HBO, The Last of Us?" I was like, "Yeah, Dad, I've known about it for a while, man. I uh I played the game multiple times." He's like, "There's a game about it?" I was like, "Well, the show's about the game, not the other way around." So, and he also watched the Witcher, and he called me about it. He goes, "Man, that Witcher's great." I'm like, "Hey, do you want to play the game?" And he was like, "No, I could never do that." And I was like, "Fair enough. Yeah, but you could if you wanted to." So that's cool.
yeah,
Like,
that's it. I'm still working on a couple of 3D print files to send over first. I still have not found that controller holder for us.
I'm waiting on it, man.
But
Uh,
uh yeah, it's definitely a cool thing to, like you said, and you don't have to play the game if you enjoyed the show, but it's one of those people are like for me, like it's one of those games that's kind of been on a back burner, like, yeah, I'll get around to it, but it's like now there's a show and now it's gonna be like, it's like, wow, this show was great. Like, I definitely got to check out the game now. Like that, even that trailer made me like, wow, I need to go check this out. Like,
we're talking about the
um,
Last of Us trailer.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's like it's just it's a farther reach, a farther scope for an industry that obviously we love. We sit down for hours every single week and talk about it. So to see what's happening is great. And like there's sometimes, I don't want to shout out anybody or call anybody. They're like, "Oh, I don't want this stuff to be turned into a TV show or anything." It's like, why not? Why? It can't hurt it. The people who love Cyberpunk, and let's say the show came out and it was terrible, which it's not. The show is fantastic. But say it was terrible. Does that hurt the game's reputation in any way? No, I don't think it does. The game is still exactly what it was or is. Or I guess a better example, if the Last of Us show comes out and is somehow not good, um, does that hurt how I feel about The Last of Us as a whole? Part one and part two, and even Left Behind? No, it doesn't change my opinion at all. It's disappointing that the show wasn't good. Like, that sucks. People don't get to enjoy what I enjoyed out of it. A good example is some of these like live action retellings of animes, which seem to be just unanimously terrible. Like Death Note. I love Death Note, the anime. It's one of my favorites, and the live action was garbage. Does that take away from my love of Death Note? No, I still love Death Note. So the adaptation didn't work out. That's fine. Try again later. So like some of these people on Reddit and all that come out and that come after me when I put my opinions out there about how I'm all on board with these adaptations. Sony's putting out 10, 12 adaptations of some of the properties, and if half of them suck, that's fine. That means half of them are great. Not everything has to be incredible. There's some things that can just not come together, and that's fine. Like, we can be disappointed in that. I'll be disappointed in that. But it's overall fine because it doesn't take away from the things that we love that they're based off of. Like, the Captain America game on PS3 is not a great game. Does that take away from my love of Captain America MCU movies? Not even in the slightest. That was a rant. Sorry. What do you got?
no, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of people that were like, yeah, that game wasn't great, but I'm pretty sure Captain America still has like across one like character specific movies, like his trilogy is, I'm pretty sure, the best across the board. Like, um, so it's like you're saying, like just because a game is lackluster doesn't mean the show will be, or vice versa. Where like the show is kind of a dud, it doesn't necessarily detract from what the game is like. So, I mean, time will tell with some of these other shows coming out. Um, hopefully they hopefully this performs as good as the trailer did, and I think it's gonna be a banger. And it's just some companies understand how to make shows and some just don't. But you know, it is what it is, and we'll keep getting content from Netflix, from HBO, Amazon. Like, they'll keep putting stuff out. It just eventually people are gonna not pay attention to one and pay more attention to the other, and HBO seems to be the way to go so far. So I will
I mean, I'll
keep with
say
that moving forward.
HBO and Amazon. I think Amazon is great at making TV shows. I know Logan has talked about it. How he hasn't really watched anything that Amazon has done, which is why I'm way more excited about the God of War TV show than I am about the Horizon TV show, because I just trust Amazon a lot more than Netflix. And like, Netflix makes great stuff. Netflix's The Witcher is fantastic, and I said they did good work with Cyberpunk, and they make a lot of great shows out there. But if someone was to ask me, like, what do you think lasts longer, Horizon on Netflix or God of War on Amazon, I'm like, well, probably God of War on Amazon. So
Yeah, definitely.
also, speaking of that vein, did you hear the news that came out this week about that Grendel show that Netflix was making?
No.
You know who Grendel is, right?
It sounds familiar.
The mythological character in the Beowulf stories.
Okay, yeah.
They were making a show about that, and Netflix canceled it before the premiere. Which that in itself isn't strange. That happens on network television. That happens quite a bit. But the strange shit of it was, it came out like the producers and all that came out and said, "No, it's done. We shot the entire season. They just canceled it. They didn't want to show it." And
Jeez.
that's the weird one. Normally shows get canceled like they shoot a pilot and the pilot's not received very well, and the production company says, yeah, we don't actually want this, or they get a couple episodes into it and fans aren't really into it, so they say, okay, we're just going to shutter this one. But no, they shot the entire season, paid for it, and then said, yeah, no, man, we don't want it no more. Man, Netflix is fucking weird, man.
That's kind of like the Batgirl movie. Like, it's done, it's
Yeah,
ready to hit
same
theaters,
thing.
and then Warner Brothers just went, nah, we're good. And it's like, did you do that? And like, did you fuck with numbers on the costs so you could claim a huge insurance loss or something? Like, it's pretty suspicious when you do some of that. And
It's like, if it's done, just put it out. If it sucks, that's fine. It probably was going to suck. Like, I didn't have a lot of faith in the Batgirl movie. It probably was going to be pretty bad. But fuck it. You already made the movie. Just let people see it. Why cancel it? That does nothing for you at all. At least put it out, you get some sort of money, I guess. Well, no. Who the hell knows, man? These companies are odd. These companies are weird fucking people. And I guess I just don't understand the wider responsibility of owning a multi-billion-dollar company, which I probably never will. Well, not probably. I definitely never will, but... All right. Number 7 on Around the Point. Skyrim is coming to Switch, and there's a little bit of controversy about it. I think it's a mind-boggling decision. Skyrim Anniversary had its surprise launch earlier this day, on September 29th, actually, the day that Stadia was canceled. Look at that. So, and the weird thing about this is if you already own the base game on Switch, you can upgrade for the mere cost of $19.99, or if you want to buy the game brand new in all of its content, it'll run you a steep $69.99 for a 11-year-old video game.
That's ridiculous.
Hey, people talked a lot of shit on the $70 price tag on The Last of Us remake. At least that thing was actually remade and redone. Like, there was work done to it. This is just a port, and probably the worst way to play it on Switch. Like, $70 fucking dollars for the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? Dude, this blew my mind when I read it. I was like, there's no way. And I did a little bit of research, and yep, I looked it up on the Switch store. $69.99 for a game.
Ridiculous.
For a game that came out in 2011. I couldn't believe it, man. I honestly couldn't. Even the upgrade price. The upgrade price is $20. That's like, I think, maybe a third of the original season pass for Skyrim, or whatever they did with it. From 2011, I don't know. I always am. I usually take the line of what a game is worth what you think it is. Worth is in the eyes of the beholder. It's up to the individual what something is worth to you. And if you out there have never played the Elder Scrolls the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim before, if you've never looked at it, if you own a Switch and you didn't buy it when it first came out, and you see this, you're like, oh yeah, $70 is probably worth it. then fine. More power to you. Knock yourself out. It is a fantastic video game. It's one of the best video games ever made, in my opinion. But me personally thought this was absolutely ridiculous. So, and I don't feel like I'm actually being hypocritical there in some of my stances I've had in previous times with, in terms of video game price and worth and all that. I don't think I'm really being hypocritical at all. If I am, call me out, please. Put me in the comments and I'm a dumb mother effer. I don't care.
No, it's one of those. I know guys. I know one of my buddies from high school. His dad, I think, is still playing out on 360. Dude's got like 5,000 hours sunk into it or some wild shit like that, and it's like, it's like, yeah, this one's been going forever, and you're it's not like you're saying, hey, this is a video game classic. You're selling this to Switch players like it's almost like they're trying to sucker people in that have only ever played like Switch games or don't see outside of the Nintendo bubble, and like, hey, here's a new game for you. And then like
For
I feel
example,
like
let me cut him off this. For example, Skyrim Elder Scrolls 5. I keep saying that about the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim Anniversary Edition on PS5. It's $49.99. I don't. I didn't mean to cut in. I just looked that up real quick. Sorry. Go ahead
oh,
with
you're
what
good.
you were saying.
It just seems like people are gonna be like, hey, what's this game? And then like if they've never heard of it or played it before, but then it's gonna be like, I feel like you're gonna look at it and like they're gonna be like, oh, or they're gonna see, that opening scene and realize like, oh, I've been seeing that as an internet meme since internet memes have been a thing. Like, what the, and I paid $70 for this? Like, I feel like there's gonna be some discrepancies, and I'm sure there's gonna be a few. I'm sure somebody out there is gonna be dumb enough to try to sue Nintendo for selling a game that's a decade old more expensive than the day it came out.
Well, it's
So
not really Nintendo.
no,
This is all a Bethesda
yeah,
decision. This
which
is all. I
it
mean, Nintendo
so
doesn't care
I
what you
guess
price your games at.
it,
So
yeah. So I'm sure there's gonna be a lawsuit towards Bethesda then being like, hey, are you really trying to sell us a decade old game for $10 more than it would have cost me to get it a decade ago? Like, it's kind of bold, but man,
yeah, I want to play Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim on a 7-inch screen at 720p. That's what I want to do.
yeah, that too.
No. Oh, so. All right. Number 9, I think. Yeah, no. Number 8. Sorry, I skipped ahead one. Number 9, a new trailer for the much anticipated, at least in me and DJ's groups, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet debuted a new Pokemon, and I have dubbed it the Limp Dick White Wiener Pokemon. Okay, no. It's called Wiglett, which is a reskinned, elongated version of Diglett. What do you think about this, dude? Being the Pokemon pro that you are. Are you into the
Um,
old wiggle fucker? Man, I'm on another
it
level
was
right
like
now, dude. I don't know what's
it,
going on with
it's
me.
like it's like why didn't you just call this Palladian form Diglett? Like, that would have been less of a reach than calling this being Palladian form Diglett and calling it Wiglet, and especially the connotations around um it sounds kind of like the weird slur Wigger, which is a white person that acts not white. And it's one of those, you're dancing around the N-word as a slur, and it's like Diglett's fine. Like but this literally just gives off the connotation I just said. It's a white Diglett that's trying to be a Diglett. Like, it it's
Yeah,
like,
this
what?
one's a weird one, man. this
It's
one's
yeah,
this
this
one's
out of all of them, out of all the, the different forms since Sun and Moon, the different forms we've got, regional forms we've gotten, this is one that was like, hey, how about we don't make it a regional form? We just make it a whole new Pokemon.
yeah.
And then somebody was like, it's like these memes I see on TikTok where the guy is sniffing markers when they come up with Pokemon. It's like, this is the guy that was sniffing the marker and go, oh, what if we make Diglett long, skinny, and white, and we call him Wiglett. And somebody was like, "Great idea!
Yeah,
Cut, stamp, print, put it in the game." And it was like, "What are you doing? You're adding almost 100 and something new Pokemon to put us up over 1,000." I understand a couple forms; those might not count for that, but it's like you could have just gave us something that looked more like an earthworm and not like you pulled the face off Diglett, threw it on a random animal, and then we're like, well, what do we call it? Well, it's got Diglett's face and it's white. Drop that D and change it to a double. White Diglett, Wiglett. It's
dude.
like,
What you said a little bit ago
what?
with your little snap, it reminded me so much of the Rick and Morty memes. Like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah, it's just like
That's
that.
how they name
It's
Pokemon now.
some of their decisions, it's just like they put 3 or 4 up. It's, do we reskin Diglett? Do we make a whole new worm type Pokemon? Do we make a new mole Pokemon? Do we go another direction? And they threw a dart at the board and it landed at reskin Diglett. And they went, yep, well, I guess that's what we're going with. And it's like, guys, you like, I hate to be this way because obviously they don't want to hire, I'm sure they don't want to pay for the rights for someone else, but there are so many people that come up with fake, well, online they're being called fakeamon. Um they come up with these fake Pokemon for their own games, their own ROMs, their own skins, whatever. They come up with, or even fan art, that just come up with the best Pokemon or animals that we haven't had Pokemon of before. And it's like, just pay someone a couple grand, or tell them you're going to give them, $1 for every copy sold because their Pokemon's in the game or something. And or give them a credit, or give them a credit, and if that ends up being within the top 10 of a liked Pokemon for that version, bring them on board and give them a job, because obviously they're crushing it with making these fake Pokemon. So it's like, you got more options out there. Take the blinders off and see that, like, there's people not working for Nintendo or for Game Freak or for Pokemon Inc. that are doing the people you pay's job. They're doing it better. Like, bring them in as consultants or something. Like, Wiglet is mind blowing.
Yeah, it's not a good one. I've actually been on board with a lot of the new Pokemon they announced. There was that new little dragon guy. I thought he was pretty cute looking. Yeah, but this
Yeah.
one, I remember just watching the trailer in bewilderment. I was like, what is happening currently? I told you before the show. There was that dude on Reddit. I read, and for all the kids out there, or for all the parents that have kids out there that might listen to the show, sorry, you're about to get a lot of questions. But Diglett is the BBC, and Wiglett is the Johnny Sins. So for people who understand that get that, I died laughing. I thought that was hysterical. For those of you that don't get that, Google those 2 words. All right, getting close to the end now. Number 9 on Around the Point. As always, we go through the PS Plus and Xbox games with golds each and every month when they announce. The PlayStation Plus games for the month of October 2022 goes as follows. Hot Wheels Unleash. The zany, over-the-top driving action of Hot Wheels comes to PS4 and PS5 with an arcade sim base on in the Hot Wheels universe. Collect, build, and race your favorite Hot Wheels cars, then jump into split screen to play with a friend to face off with your newest vehicles. Injustice 2 comes, a fighting game from the makers of Mortal Kombat 2. Injustice 2 brings the heavy-hitting superheroes and villains from the DC universe to the PS4 and 5 for an action-packed beat-em-up. Following up on the original game, Injustice 2 continues the story, allowing players to jump in as Batman, Superman, and a number of other classic DC heroes and villains to take on a range of colorful foes. I'm having troubles. Then Super Hot, a unique FPS that lets you slow down time. Super Hot really has to be experienced to understand how absolutely incredible it is. Blurring the lines between reality and gaming, Super Hot puts you in the hot seat as a fictionalized version of yourself, accessing a new leaked video game. Alright, so those are the essential games. Haven't had any word on the extra or premium games for this month, but I'm sure we'll come to you next week with that. Pretty damn good list, I think, here. all these games are something that I'm interested in. Obviously, I've already played Injustice 2. I love the Injustice games. I love the story modes, but Hot Wheels Unleashed is a game I've really wanted to play when it came out, never got the chance. Now I might jump in for free. And Super Hot is a game I played long ago when it came out. It is, in my opinion, one of the more inventive games I've played in a long time. If you don't know, DJ, Super Hot is it drops you into the level, and the level only moves when you move. If you're not moving, everything stops around you. So it's like a puzzle mixed with a first-person shooter that after you find your way through the puzzle or the level and get to the end, it then shows you a full speed of what you did. It's fucking cool, dude. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that sounds like I've the last couple. I have been kind of slacking on those games too. To play them, I download them and they sit there. Um, I will definitely have to download and play that one too because that sounds awesome.
And like I said, Hot Wheels Unleashed is a game that took us all by surprise last year. Didn't realize it was going to be as good as it was, so I'll probably jump into that and try some of that out. On the Xbox sides, like we announced last month, well, we didn't announce it. That would be cool if we did, but Xbox announced that they are no longer putting out Xbox 360 games starting this month. So you only get 2 games for them this month, sorry. Those games being Windbound is a delightfully challenging survival game that sees you play as Kara, shipwrecked on the Forbidden Islands with nothing except what she can scavenge and build to find her way through. And then Bomber Crew, an exciting in-depth management sim with a charming style that offers the occasionally brutal difficulty of keeping your crew alive and trying to hit a target all in real time. A rewarding upgrade cycle makes some trial and error frustration worthwhile, and once you get into the groove, you can lose hours to its enjoyable rhythm. So, like always, Xbox doesn't give a flying fuck about games with gold, but they do care about Game Pass, and that's where the real money is. But PlayStation Essential, looking really good this month. Those of you jump in, hope you guys enjoy what they have to offer. Anything on the games with gold and anything else on the PlayStation Plus games? I mean, I'm telling you, man, jump into Super Hot. It's not even that long of a game. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's like a 1 to 2 day game if you play it a couple hours.
I'm I'm definitely jumping into Super Hot.
Any news on Journey yet?
Um, Coming soon, hopefully.
All right. Well, all right. That's the end of the video game news. Got one shout out for a movie news for you, and then we'll get you guys out of here pretty quickly after that. The final story on Around the Point, like I said, is a movie story. Avatar Remastered came back to the box offices this week after 13 years, and it's happy to say that this still has a place in the cultural significance of our world and our movie viewing, which gives me a big hope for the sequel. Where I was originally afraid that it was too late, too long a wait. This release gives me a little bit of happy. It topped the weekend box office at $30.5 million over 4 or 5 days, I think it was out, and officially regarnering the highest grossing film. Wait. Yeah. Sorry. That was a confusing statement. So I was trying to read and talk and it worked. So extending its lead as the highest grossing film of all time at $2,877,897,339. Avengers sits right behind it at 2.8 billion 970,000. All right, whatever. There's a lot of fucking numbers, and I ain't gonna read them all no more. But yeah, this really, with the reason I want to put this in there is because it kind of, like I said, made me breathe a sigh of relief that there maybe is still some hope for The Way of Water, and that people still like this universe and still want to see more of it. Because when the trailer was officially came out, I know a lot of people shout on it for some reason. I don't really know why, but there were people out there that shit on everything, so whatever. But it just kind of felt to me that it might be a little too late. But 30.5 million from a re-release of a movie only over the span of like think 4 or 5 days it was in theaters gives me hope that there's still people out there that want to see this and are excited for it. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I thought that was definitely insane too. That like on a re-release weekend of a movie that's old. is insane. And like you said, like there was a lot of hate that like people were like, yeah, we don't care about Avatar anymore. And I think that was just a small voice, just a small loud voice. But there's definitely people are hyped to see Avatar 2 and beyond, and I think this was a great showing for that, and it kind of reignited my hype for it too.
Man, I can't wait for The Way of Water. A movie that I'm planning actually seeing this week, so I might report next week to you guys out there is Smile, that new horror film. I can't wait. I can't wait to see that. Have you seen some of the guerrilla marketing that the
Yes, me
producers?
and Lena have loved that. Just the creepy pictures from football games,
Yeah, with
baseball
people.
games.
Oh,
Oh,
dude, it's been so. It's whoever came up with that idea. Give that man a fucking raise, please. That is a brilliant idea for a viral marketing campaign. Oh, sorry, guerrilla marketing campaign. It's amazing. I started seeing pictures come out and I was like, bro, this is on a whole nother level. This is smarter than anything I ever could have come up with. You know? So cool. I can't wait to see it. Are you thinking of checking it out maybe sometime?
um, I think if her and I can get away or dump the kid on grandparents for a bit, we might try to.
Whoa, okay.
Otherwise,
Beginning of that
it'll
sentence was a little sketchy. Then a sentence brought it home.
um we'll definitely go check it out. Otherwise, it'll probably be a lot of movies that we are hyped for. We end up just waiting until it comes out on streaming. But that's one her and I are like, we have to see this.
Yeah, Peyton's really excited. I am excited too, but it also looks like a super creepy movie, and I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna be a little scaredy cat. Not as bad as Logan though. At least I can handle scary movies, but this looks like one that is doing something different than a lot of scary movies, and those are some of my favorite horror movies of recent memory. The ones that do things differently and focus on more consistent tension than like just jump scares all the time. Like my favorite movie of recent memory is um, It Follows. I love It Follows. I don't know if you
Okay.
have you seen it.
I think we've seen that one. The one that we've watched over the ones Lena's loving the Jordan Peele movies. We haven't seen Nope yet, but Get Out and Us are just so good.
I told people and I tell people like I think they're really good. I don't think they're as good as people say they are. I think they're a little overhyped, but I still really enjoy them. But dude, Get Out. There was one scene that like it tapped into a primal fear of mine that's like only something personal to me, and I felt so uncomfortable in the movie theater. It was that scene where the main character walks out of the house and the gardener just like runs straight towards him in the dark, and
Yeah.
that's like a primal fear of mine because I grew up in a very open place. My parents have a lot of land, so there's sometimes when I was walking around going to like I don't know, close the chickens up or put the horses away, whatever I was doing at the time. I would always like look around and be like, dude, what if someone just fucking ran at me in the darkness? It like it's like this weird primal fear of mine that I'm always kind of contemplating when I'm walking around in the dark. Like, what if this happens? And then when it happened in the movie, I like turned away from the screen. It's one of the only times I've ever been like actually not perturbed, disturbed with something that happened in a movie. It got to me, man. Fucked my shit up. It was crazy. I've never experienced that before. It was weird. All right. That's all the news we have for you this week. That was around the point. Please let us know down below what you think of some of the things we talked about. Are you ever going to get to play Skull and Bones? Who knows? We'll see. Are you going to watch the Last of Us trailer when it comes out? How many of the Disney Star Wars games are you going to want to play? And how much can you take of the Disney, like, just fucking slamming shit down our throats? Because I'm pretty much at the end of my rope, man. I don't want to know more. I'm tired of it. So, all right.
And
Go ahead.
tune
Sorry.
in early next year to see if I take Skull and Bones in next year's draft too.
Yeah, probably the first week of January if we can make it all work. So, all right. Review roundup for the following week. Legend of Heroes Trials of Zero came out and got an 82. Grounded saw its official release and got an 84. Hoko Life, whatever the fuck that is, got a 61. Tunic saw its launch on PS4 and 5 and Switch. Don't have a final score on that yet, but there's a game that got an 89 back in the day earlier this year on Switch. Dwarf Romantic on Switch, an 80. Valkyrie Elysium, the new JRPG in the long dormant franchise, 68. FIFA 23, the final entry in the long running football series, 73. Never Awake got an 83. The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, that sounds like a PC-ass game, 86. Moon Scars, 76. What are you chewing on, dude?
No, I dropped something. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no, you're good. Dome Keeper, 77. What do you think about all these, man? You gonna play Hoko Life?
No. That sounds like one my sister might be into. I'm honestly, I'm only excited for Tunic. That was one of my weird, just out of thin air draft picks. Ended up doing good. Now I like it. I watched a trailer for it and stuff before I drafted it, and it kind of had me. It piqued my interest, so it's definitely one I don't know if I'll get it for PlayStation or if I'll get it for Switch, but I definitely will get it sooner or later.
Yeah, Valkyrie Elysium is one that I still feel like I'm going to play. I was a little disappointed by the score. Like, whatever, those scores are scores. So, but I loved Valkyrie Profile back in the day on, I believe, the PS1 or 2, maybe. I don't exactly remember. I was young. Give me a break. But it's one of those JRPGs that, like, kind of kickstarted my love of the genre. So, I'll probably get that. Try not buy it. I tried to ask for it for my birthday, so we'll see. It's weird, by the way. You still ask for gifts for your birthday. I'm 30 years old, 31.
Yeah,
I still do it.
it's same. It's like, what am I gonna do for that? Or like, Christmas time. Like, neither one of my in-laws like to give gift cards. Lena really doesn't like to give gift cards. Like, unless she can't help it. But it's like, hey, what do you want? It's like I'm 30. Like, other than like a bottle of liquor, which it's like you don't want to ask for like $100 plus bottle of liquor. I don't want to ask for a 50 plus bottle of liquor. Like, I don't want to ask for a video game or like Legos or something. Like last year, I didn't know what to ask for. I ended up asking for Risk, the board game, and I got it. And we haven't played it yet, but I was like, hey, we own Risk now. Now we
Perfect.
don't have to buy it. Like, it's just stuff like that it's like, now we're October now, and it's like, now we're starting to come up with like, hey, what are we gonna ask for this year? And it's like, I like just get stuff for the baby now. Like, I just give me money and I'll go buy my own stuff. Like, I don't.
Real quick, what's your opinion on getting clothes as a gift? Because I want to know how far off I am from the rest of the world out there. Because I hate getting clothes as gifts. It's like, I can buy my own goddamn clothes. Get me stuff give me like collectibles for video games. Give me stuff for my PC. Give me other things. I can buy my own pair of pants. Thank you very much, Mom.
So
I love you, Mom.
I don't mind getting socks as long as they're like crazy goofy socks. I know that sounds weird, but like, I have extensive like amounts of goofy socks with stuff on them. Like, I have ones that are it's eggs, bacon, and Tabasco bottles. I have ones that are just tacos. I have ones that are cheeseburgers, like crazy prints, crazy stuff on them. I've got ones that are video game. I got Lord of the Rings pairs. Like socks like that, I don't mind. I don't always mind getting t-shirts as long as they're in my size. The only thing that's like rough is like, I wish people could get me hoodies like that they think I'll like, but I need like a 5X hoodie because I have broad as fuck shoulders and a gut. So it's hard to find, like, you can't just
Welcome to
go to a store.
adulthood. Welcome to
Yeah,
fatherhood.
you can't just go to the store and buy me a hoodie. Like, you have to find a place that makes them my size and then try to find something that I'll like in my size. And it's just, I've kind of so for the most part, people don't buy me clothes, which kind of, it's one of the few small remaining gifts of being how big I am is people don't usually go out of the way to buy me clothes.
Speaking of weird clothes, man, I was like 3 steps away. I was on my way to the register when I was leaving work. I was like 3 or 4 steps away from buying a PlayStation bucket hat that we had at work. And I got kind of close to the register. I was like, man, I don't fucking need this. This is dumb. It's $20 that I don't need to
That'd been
spend.
great. That'd have been great for when we finally can run video. That'd have been great for you to wear during that.
Well, that's what I was going to do. I was going to wear it for the PlayStation show, but I was like, man, I'll just go buy an actual PlayStation hat. I don't need this freaking bucket hat, dude. It would have been cool, though. All right, out this week is where we go through all the games, or most of the games coming out this week. Man, I desperately searched the internet for more than what we have here, but this is all I could find. So you get what you
Yeah,
get.
we're hitting that last little dry spell before we just shit hits the fan.
Yeah, I tried out there. Sorry, guys, there's not a lot this week. But anyway, on October 4th, Dakar Desert Rally comes out on PS5 for Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC. Overwatch 2, the big one, comes out on PS5 for Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on October 5th. Death vs. Let It Die comes out on PC on October 6th. Nier Automata sees its Nintendo Switch release. And then on October 7th, one day before my birthday, No Man's Skies comes out on Nintendo Switch. And 2 days before, no, wait, 3 days before your birthday. Yours is the 10th, right?
Yep.
Yeah, October 10th. So me and DJ both turning 31 next week.
Woo.
Yeah, great, awesome. All right, anything you're gonna play this week? I'm not playing any of these games. I might download Overwatch. It's free. Fuck it. Like, it's free to play. I might download it and see what it's about.
That's about it. That's one of those that I feel like I missed the hype for it. It's kind of like Valorant. It's one of those. It started huge on PC, and then I feel like it got ported over later, and it's kind of like PUBG. Like by the time we got PUBG um on PlayStation, we already had Blackout and Fortnite, and like had just gotten Warzone, so it was like there's there's no reason to play PUBG. So I probably won't play any of these. I'll have to see what I end up if I end up playing anything other than Stray for a little bit, or one of the many games in my growing library. But other than that, no, I probably won't play any of these.
Oh, real quick to the audience out there. Unfortunately, I have given up on one of my backlog games for this year, and that was Watch Dogs Legion. I deleted it from the PS5. I just don't feel like playing it. I'm sorry out there. If you liked it, that's great. It seemed like a pretty okay, average video game, but I just didn't want to play it. I'm liking Wonderlands though. So, all right, let's get out of here. I got dragons to watch. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our show. Everyone who has either been watching or listening, we just want to take this time as always and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Without your support, we could not do what we're trying to do here, and we definitely could not continue to do what we're trying to do here. But please, we need your help out there, folks. We need you to help us continue to grow by telling anyone that you think would be interested in listening to us that we actually know what we're doing here, at least somewhat. Maybe you don't think we know what you're doing, and then in that case, don't mention it to anybody. Let them figure it out for themselves. Anything left to say, DJ?
No, thanks for having me back. I look forward to my next showing. Hopefully we can get video up and running soon. Was messing with the cam before you hopped on to get this mic figured out. The video is pretty crystal clear on my end, so I'd be down for you and me to do video. I know we're still kind of waiting on Logan for that, but yeah, I look forward to coming back again. Thanks for having me on again, and people out there, like, subscribe, go to Patreon, all that good stuff. So we can keep doing this, and I can keep coming back and rambling on about stuff with Mike.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of Patreon, always in every episode, we want to give a shout out to Mr. Logan Leffler. I saw you this weekend, my brother. I appreciate your support and what we're trying to do here each and every month. Keep it up. Those of you out there, if you are interested in our Patreon, we have a bunch of different tiers, or I guess we only have 4. But you can subscribe to either a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum membership. It comes with a litany of different accesses for you. If you those of you that subscribe at the silver membership of above, you do get access to our PlayStation exclusive episode with DJ and I go through and just nerd out about PlayStation twice a month. So if you want to hear that, if you want to listen more to that, please go subscribe to the silver membership or above, and you can get everything and all things that we do. Sorry, I stumbled. Once again, thanks everyone for listening and following along with us. I hope everyone has a great and fantastic week. And as always, we'll see you guys in 28.